Good evening. Welcome to Soul Citizens. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and welcome to another fun-filled conversation about Star Citizen, Squadron 42, CIG, and all that great stuff. And we have a power-packed show for you guys today with a power-packed panel of wonderful people. And yes, we are going to introduce them first, and then I'm going to talk to my co-host. Let's introduce starting from the far left of the screen, which would be to the right if you're on their side. Whoa! I feel good. Nomad 1701. Thank you for that resub. I always love that Star Trek reference, Nomad. Thanks for the sub to kick us off here. Let's start out with the very first, starting with H. We'll start alphabetically. The man himself, as Paul Shelley would call him, the Sultan of Salt. HCVertigo. What's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got done streaming some Elden Ring.
How you digging it?
It's difficult. It holds up to From Software's legacy of making games that make you want to tear your hair out.
Yeah. Okay. But is it beating you or are you beating it? Which one?
No, I'm making progress. I'm beating it. I just beat like the third big boss in the game.
Oh.
So.
Ooh. Okay. So you're doing good because I've been hearing people moan like crazy over there.
Oh, I am just absolutely a pillar of salt right now from this last boss fight. It was difficult, super difficult.
Okay, but you're enjoying it.
Imagine power through.
But you're enjoying it though. That's the big thing. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. Great. Well, great to have you. This is your first time here. We've been on Paul's show together, but thank you for coming out today. Appreciate you being here. Next to him, we have a name that we all are familiar with, theNoobifier. I didn't put your numbers after your name this time. Is that okay?
It's fine.
Is that cool?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. You've been in with us before and sat in the conversations, right? And talked before, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit less deliberate than this.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Well, thank you for being here and definitely digging what you're doing at the house. Very cool stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an ongoing, it's a never-ending project, right?
Yeah.
There's always something to do.
There you go.
Tons of fun.
Well, we're watching. Don't worry, we're watching. And next to him, to his left, the SpaceTomato. I didn't put in front of it. I just did SpaceTomato. Is that okay?
Oh, that's how it is. Just SpaceTomato.
I could have did SpaceTomato 2. I could have did that too because that's the other name, right?
Yeah. Some people like that one more.
Yeah. Now, Tomato, you've been here, I think, twice before, right? And I think I've been with you twice, right? Something like that.
Yeah, been on a few times, yeah.
All right, 2 and 2. So now you're 3. So now you owe me 1 back your way when I see you again next time.
Come on, man.
And last but not least, ToyGrubin. Is it Grubin? Are we saying that right?
Grubin.
ToyGrubin. Toy, thank you for being here. We appreciate you making time to be here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
All right. I was saying before the show got started that all of us watch these guys and we respect them as far as their voice in the community. We are so excited to have them here. And I think we have a really great conversation with them today. But I do want to introduce my co-hosts that are here with me today from the Soul Citizens. GomabATL. Gomab, what's up?
How's it going, man? Good evening.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Good.
This is the topic that's near and dear to my heart, so I'm ready.
Oh yeah, you're ready. I know. And Whammer always talks when you talk. You notice that, right? Always talks when you talk.
That's all right. Whammer will not hold me back. He will not stop me, Whammer.
Fair enough. And to my left and to your right in the corner, the man himself from Florida, Kelosal. How are you, bro?
I'm doing better now. I have a big announcement.
Oh, God. Don't get him started.
He's back. He just made his announcement today. He is out of retirement, and he is coming back. So what does that mean, Griff? It's just very simple.
It means I won't be watching him. That's what it means.
It means he just doesn't like his wife that much.
It means we'll be giving you a ticket. You can come on over to Canada.
God. Oh, my God. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Kelosal. We appreciate that. So listen, let's jump into it. As you guys know, that our title today is Critical Role. Yes, we are plagiarizing, but we spelled it differently. But we are talking about, the theme of the show is basically talking about what does it mean to critique? What does it mean to criticize? And we've talked about both in the positive and the negative light. What does it mean? And what is the role of criticism when it comes down to the development of a game like Star Citizen, CIG, Squadron 42? As you guys know, the gentlemen who are on the bottom of the screen are very well known for being vocal about their beliefs about the development of this game, but they're also very big supporters and powerful voices in our community. So we wanted to kind of bring them together to ask them some questions. Yes, they've been prepped a little bit, and get their feelings about what does it mean to be not only critical or to critique Star Citizen, but also maybe even the community itself, gaming itself, when it comes to a development like this game. So we're going to jump into that, and let's get some icebreaker question out of the way first. And the first question, we're going to start with HC, just so you guys can get some background. HC, I'm going to start with you. When and how were you introduced to Star Citizen? What year, if you remember, when you got in?
I remember hearing about Star Citizen and Chris Roberts for the Kickstarter back in, like, I want to say late 2012. And I was playing with a group of people doing some multiplayer games like PlanetSide 2 and such as that. MechWarrior Online, PlanetSide 2, and I remember hearing about it. And I was like, oh, cool, Chris Roberts is doing a Kickstarter and whatever. I really wasn't too interested when I first heard about it. And then MechWarrior Online took a turn when they released from beta. And I really didn't like the way that game was going. And MechWarrior Online was free to play, but I really loved the idea of MechWarrior Online. And I was so mad at what they eventually did with the release version of MechWarrior Online. That's a whole story by itself. That instead of giving that company money, I turned around and gave Chris Roberts the money I was going to give.
You bought the game out of hate?
Out of pure spite.
Spite?
Oh, you need help, brother.
Like,
It's a healthy relationship forming there.
A spite pledge. So I ended up giving Chris Roberts $275 for a Rear Admiral package.
Oh, okay.
Thanks
You jumped
for
in.
Warrior.
You
Thanks
jumped
for
in.
giving us HCVertigo.
Yes, sir.
Chris, like, thank you.
Wow,
MechWarrior.
you jumped in with both feet. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
complete
This was
anger.
back when I was a mechanic, so I had a lot of. I'm a real stingy person. I'm very stingy, thrifty, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
I don't really need much to live.
Okay.
Like me, I'm not one of those people that drives fast cars or wears fancy watches or gold jewelry or anything like that.
Okay.
You heard that fast cart?
A Drake pilot.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Thanks. Noobifier, same question. When and how were you introduced to Star Citizen?
You're going to hate me. No BS. 2014, someone told me to buy an Aurora.
Oh,
That's it. That's the whole story.
really?
Yeah, I got sucked in and bought chips and started researching, and that was it.
Okay.
Like, it's short.
Okay. Simple. Okay. Gotcha. Tomato, how about you?
To be honest, I don't actually remember the first time getting it, but I do remember the first time finding out about it. I do remember when I eventually decided to take the jump, and it was right around. So I had just finished Mass Effect in like 2012. Mass Effect 3, loved it, killed it, was absolutely a joy. I was looking for something else that would be good. I was excited for two games, Star Wars 1313 and Prey 2. Both of which were kind of like sci-fi, space-ish kind of themed games that I thought would be cool to sink my teeth into for a while. Both of which ended up getting either shelved or canceled. So I really didn't have anything too much to look forward to in terms of like that kind of stuff. And then I found Star Citizen, and I was like, "Hey, this seems pretty cool. I'll like, what's the harm? $45, I'll jump in." Ended up being 70. I got a 325A, but it was, same idea. I didn't put too much into it. I was like, this is going to be cool. Where could it lead? Now it's my career, but
years later,
$7,000 later.
where could it lead?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Where could it lead? Yeah, really. Okay, thanks. Toy, how about you?
So I kind of got shafted on the launch here because I was out of town when the Kickstarter started. I had a friend call me up, and he's like, "Hey, you remember Chris Roberts? You remember Wing Commander?" And I was like, yeah. And he's like, "He's doing this Kickstarter for this game, and do you want me to get you a package?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah," because I didn't have my computer with me or a laptop or anything like that. So he's like, "Okay, well, when you get a chance, go set up an account." So when I ended up getting back home after, I think it was still during Kickstarter, it might have just ended or something like that. I set up my account, and he gifted me the starter pack. It was just a starter pack. And then, it was like years before I like started to upgrade or buy other ships. So didn't get any of the Kickstarter bonuses.
Oh, wow.
But I've been around since day one, pretty much.
Okay.
Wow.
Toy, you and I talked about this earlier. Kelosal, I think you might have missed it, but Toy referenced that before this, he was a big Star Wars Galaxies fan.
Oh yeah, I completely missed it. I was talking.
Huge.
Yeah, I was into that. I think I was in Eve before this. Galaxies had died Well, it didn't die, but I left after that goofy reducing down to 6 people and everybody could be a Jedi stuff. And I was an Eve, and a friend of mine who was an Eve told me that, hey, have you heard Chris Roberts is doing this game and blah, 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 blah. And it was right after the freaking Kickstarter ended for me. So I came in post Kickstarter. Gomab, real quick, how about you? When and how did you find out about it?
I was probably around 2015. One of my coworkers was already really deep into it. And he's like, hey, dude, have you seen this? He sent me, I think it was the commercial for the Connie, and I was sold.
Yeah, that'll suck you in.
Simple as that.
Thousands of dollars later. and funny enough, I don't own a Connie anymore.
I first owned the Connie, and then it became a Carrick.
Oh yeah, when that first upgrade first came available, it was perfect sense to upgrade.
Shame on you. Shame on you all giving up the Connie. Because I did the same exact thing.
You know what's sad is that Keela is like one of my most favorite ships in the game, and I don't own one anymore.
Yeah. Colossal, how about you? How and when?
Around 2015, and then came back again around 2016 because I changed my account. But yeah, that's when that happened.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Listen, we got 12 questions for these guys. We're going to push through them. These first couple ones should be pretty easy and pretty quick. HC, I'm coming back to you. Did you do any research about the project prior to backing? And if so, what do you remember looking at? Do you remember? Or was it just the fact that it was Chris Roberts? Got a lot of people, that's all they had to hear.
Yeah, like a lot of it was Chris Roberts. I watched the propaganda video that they put out to promote the game, and it was like, oh, Chris Roberts is back. And I kind of knew a little bit about Chris Roberts and his products before. I didn't know what he was doing after Wing Commander the movie. That was the last I ever heard of him. I was vaguely aware of him like in Hollywood and doing kind of producer stuff. But basically after Wing Commander the movie, he just fell off my radar for the longest of time.
Okay.
And then of course, after I bought in 2013, about 2014, 2015, and everything you could possibly want to know about Chris Roberts came to the light.
Yeah, big time.
So by then it was a little too late, but I was still giving them money, buying extra ships for me, because that's just what everyone did, right? That's all its fans did. They just kept buying more ships.
I have to appreciate HC. Most of us would said, we saw the trailer. He said, I saw the propaganda. It's like right off the bat. I love it. All right.
He's like the indoctrination began.
Why are you still here if you're so negative?
He said it with a smile. He said it with a smile. I know.
I hang out on his stream all the time. He's getting inside my brain too.
So, satire and irony is kind of a lost art these days.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Noobifier, how about you? Any research prior to the project, or did you just jump in?
So this is going to sound perverse, but I didn't do any research because I played Strike Commander. I didn't even at the time know that Wing Commander was a thing. I know that sounds like weird. See, I'm getting shaky heads. But anyways, but I really liked Strike Commander. I thought it was awesome. I thought the graphics at the time were mind blowing and everything. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll give this a try. Who cares? It's $45, right? And
I still have my original copy of Strike Commander in my my closet somewhere. I can pull up. I have the jewel case.
What else is in the closet?
I probably have a copy of Diablo 2, Deus Ex.
Oh my God!
Infinity War.
Yeah, he missed it.
Final Fantasy VII had a PC release, the OG version from the PlayStation. They actually ported it to the PC. I have a copy of that.
And I didn't need to know.
4 discs. Well, you didn't expect us to go. Also, I have Red Faction, the original Red Faction 2.
He's got all this stuff in the closet.
That was another game they rebranded as Red Faction.
SpaceTomato, did you do any research?
Don't listen. All I'm going to tell him is don't open that closet. That's what I'm going to tell him. All the stuff is going to fall out of the closet. All right, Tomato, it's on you. Did you do any research?
My Pokemans, let me show them to you.
I actually, believe it or not, I had no idea who Chris Roberts was. Never heard of Wing Commander. Never heard of Freelancer. I'd never heard of anything that had to do with Chris Roberts. That's how far out of this spectrum I came from. I was console gaming. Deus Ex is a game I totally can get behind, but I mean, we were talking before Noobifier. We were talking about Battlefield. I was playing FPS games basically and RPGs on console. So coming into this was the first time I had built a computer. This was the first time I had gotten into playing a game with mouse and keyboard. It's the first time I'd ever played any sort of game with flight sim mechanics of any sort. So it was all completely, the only reason I got into it is because I wanted a space game. So I did no research besides just checking out which ships were cool and jumping in.
Wow.
Leap of faith.
Okay, cool. Toy, how about you?
So when I heard it was being built by Chris Roberts, I had already known him for years because I literally built a custom PC specifically for Wing Commander 486. That was like a 3366. He had a little turbo button.
Yeah. Remember that? Absolutely.
So
these whippersnappers like Tomato and them, they won't know anything about that. But I remember. Okay, 386, 286. I can go back with you, brother. All right, I got you.
You got the turbo button on the case.
HC knows
what it did.
HC knows. Okay. Fair enough.
I'm the whipper skipper here.
Yeah, you're the whippersnapper here. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to our next question for these folks. Toy, I'm going to start out with you this time on this one. From its earliest days of development of Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, they've been often treated with skepticism and sometimes even cynicism. In your opinion, why was this the response from gamers? And why is that response, why did that come from the gaming industry even? Not just gamers, but even the gaming industry kind of raised an eyebrow to this whole, ambitious project.
So, there was a lot of people excited about it, back in the day. The only cynicism I heard and skepticism was from, basically, I think it was from the big gaming companies because, Chris Roberts had done something no one has ever done before and kickstarted a game with so much money that it was just insane at the time. No one even, had ever done anything like that. If it wasn't done by a publisher, it just wasn't done. There was no indie games. There was no nothing back in that day. And he basically created a whole new way of making games that had never been done before without publishers.
I'm going to open that question up to the other three if any of you guys have any thoughts on that, because it's kind of just a thoughts question. If you don't have any thoughts on it, no big deal. But if either of you got something on that, why do you think the response was the cynicism, you would think that gamers used to be the people who dreamed, right? We always wanted that next big thing. Why was there, maybe it was what Toy said, maybe it was this industry. Was there some, I remember some gamers who were kind of, it'll never happen. I do remember that.
And words.
Well, wait, let me just guess first. We'll get you guess after. Go ahead. You guys get that.
Everybody else. I'm sorry.
Well,
go.
Well, I mean, people love to rage against things, right? And Star Citizen's a pretty easy target. It had ridiculous goals. It was going for a lot. It raised a lot of money really quickly. It made itself a pretty easy target, I'd say, for people who maybe had already been burned by Kickstarters. That was a time when a lot of Kickstarters were failing. Maybe by people who, still had a bone to pick with Chris Roberts from the other stuff he might have done. I don't think that crowd is really all that large, but I do think that we've, over time, especially this last decade, gotten really, really used to having one reaction or another when we see something. A lot of people don't really go middle of the park that much anymore. And I think that Star Citizen, it was easy to get people either getting really positive or really negative.
Okay.
I almost disagree with you there. Moderism does exist still. It's just, it doesn't get any clicks. Either you really love something to the point of obsessive compulsive, almost unhealthiness, or you really hate something to the other side of that, also to obsessiveness.
But
I think to go even further on that, I think it just doesn't get shared too.
I mean, the stuff in the middle, you don't hear that. You don't hear the middle.
You're not going to get comments of people being like, "Hey, I'm whelmed by this. This is okay, sure."
Yeah, that's a good point. The louder, was it the old squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? The folks in the middle. There are people who do feel so middle about it, but you don't hear from them. That's a good point, HC. Noobifier, anything you got on that? Or you want me to move on?
No. So I did take some notes, like I said. So as far as the cynicism and why maybe the community, not our community, but the community, like the gaming community, may see this. Basically, I said the project itself presents itself as if it's a scam. It looks like a scam from the outside until you do the research you're talking about. The store and the website are designed to look like a scam, right? And then your inability to just buy the ship that you want is a bit scammy and stuff like that. So until you get into it and you see why everything is like that from the outside, it most definitely doesn't seem like a good investment, if that makes any sense. And then of course, once you get over that hurdle of joining, and then you got to play it a little bit and stuff like that. I think that's why stuff like Free Fly, when they do work well, is a great thing, because it's basically no pressure, and then you're hooked. So I guess if we can go beyond this question into the current, because this is based on the past. Right now, I think it's even more pronounced than it was before, because we're pushing 10 years. So all of the things that people had reservations about prior are now compounded by the fact that, you see, I told you there's like 10 years we're waiting, and they don't even have a star map, for example, like as a joke or whatever. But not to be negative, but there is goodness in the game, or I wouldn't be here. But there's definitely a psychological block in the outside community. It's perceived poorly, I think.
That's a good point. Kelosal, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that I agree with the entire panel, but I was going to say that, in the words of James T. Kirk, one of our wonderful friends with Star Trek, in the undiscovered country, he said people can be very frightened of change. And when you see, and I'm putting this in the bigger spectrum, when you see a game or a person as ambitious as Chris Roberts, he puts out this entire game that nobody has done before, then you're going to see the type of things that you saw in the undiscovered country. People assassinating people, people killing people, people shooting people because they were afraid of change. And you saw that, in this gaming industry. Heck, you saw Forbes put out a freaking blatantly crappy article about all this stuff. And Forbes, for God's sake, intervening in this type of genre. So with that being the case, you got some heavy hitters that don't want other people to be a part of something new, or may want to keep the monopoly for themselves. And when you have something as ambitious as this, you got some naysayers, you got some people who believe, and you got some people who are trying to stop it.
Yeah. Gomab, you got anything?
Yeah. All great points by everybody, but I think it's just really simple. People can't read.
Or people don't want to read. They want to read a lot.
Or when they read, they read the words "we're going to try" as I promise you that I will give it to you as soon as I say next week. I'm going to give it to you next week. Not, hey, we have a goal. We're going to work towards that goal. This is something we're doing, something brand new, never done before. We have no idea what's around the corner.
Let me stop you on that. Is that part of the problem though? Because HC referenced this earlier. Is part of the problem that there were people, or Tomato, one of them said about people getting burned earlier with a lot of Kickstarters. Was it the fact that those same terms were used, groundbreaking, never before, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And then that stuff none of those games, maybe they failed, didn't come to fruition. They came out terrible. Is that kind of why maybe gamers feel a certain way when someone talks about a game being, groundbreaking? That's we use those terms, but how many groundbreaking games have come out over the last decade? Groundbreaking. We just got a raid from somebody. TV Liquid, thank you so much.
Thank you for the raid.
For 106.
Boy with the red hat.
Thank you. 106 viewers, TV Liquid. Thank you so much. And for the viewers from TV Liquid, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're talking about the critical role. What does it mean to critique and be a critic about Star Citizen and the Star Citizen community and CIG and Chris Roberts and all that good stuff. And we have a wonderful panel, as you guys can see. HCVertigo, theNoobifier, SpaceTomato, and ToyGrubin are joining us tonight.
Welcome.
Yeah, Toy, you're going to say something, or are you just waving?
No, I'm just waving.
Okay. So, do you think that could have been a factor, Gomab? The fact that, we use these terms so much that they have no value now, or people are just skeptical of groundbreaking, visionary?
All right, so, yeah. So to that end, if they have no value, then they should not be interpreted as concrete promises that end up being turned into "you lied to me." You know what I'm saying? That's the whole. That's what I keep hearing is, CIG lied in order to scam us out of money.
I take exception to that statement. Extreme exception to that statement.
Can I take this one?
Squadron 42 did have a release year, and that release year came and went multiple times. Weeks, not months.
Well, you know what? Let's go. HC's mentioning something good, and I think we need to emphasize this because there are people who've come into the community much later that don't know some of these stories about the past. But one of the things I think is a huge issue is the distinction between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. Yeah, I think that line is so blurred, and because Star Citizen is what we have in our hands, people associate the promises of Squadron 42 to Star Citizen.
And how could you not, though?
Well, true.
I
agree.
Not the same CEO, the same.
I agree.
Record as
but it's
both products.
But it goes all the way to the point of like when a company makes a headline for Squadron 42, they won't say Squadron 42. They'll say Star Citizen creators don't release this game. And so it always gets associated, that bad news, with Star Citizen, which is bad. But Star Citizen, again, is something that is ongoing in development and we know is not going to be released anytime soon. Whereas Squadron 42 is something we can hold. We can hold the flame to their butt on Squadron 42. And Star Citizen is so ambiguous
because it'll release when it releases. Fuck you.
I mean, I would assume so.
I was just gonna go all the way back. You said that RTFM. I'm gonna counter that by saying, how can I RTFM when you have the creator of the game standing on a stage in 2014 saying in 2016, answer the call, it's coming out, fuckers, get ready. Okay. That's 2016. That's not like a month or two. That's And yes, I'm fully invested in the game, and I understand like they changed it and they added planets and everything is codependent on whatever. To answer the other question that they're not the same game, bullshit on that, because we're probably waiting for Squadron 42 to release because of all the damage refactor and all of the components and all of the stuff that we need for the MMO version. They're trying to shoehorn that all into Squadron 42, which is likely why Answer the Call 2016 isn't a thing. And I want that? Yes. I want Squadron 42 to be an approximation of what we're going to get in the PU, because it represents the other game. So to say that they're not codependent.
No, I'm not saying that. And I maybe I need clarity on this. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying that the promises that were stated from the Kickstarter, even from 2012, were based around Squadron 42. But Star Citizen came later. And we were, and for those of us who've been around, you were around a long time, we always knew Star Citizen would be down the road. But Squadron 42, I agree with you. 2014, I remember. 2015, I was there in LA. 2016, waiting, drooling for this thing, for us to see a freaking vertical slice. Right?
Yep.
And I agree. And I agree. And I think that's my point. I'm saying those things I don't have a problem with raising hell about. And I agree with you 100% that they are intermingled, and that is the difficulty. But I think that because when I see a media article that comes up and says Star Citizen is delayed, as far as I'm concerned, Star Citizen has always been going to take forever. It's Squadron 42 that I never see the magazines talk about, because they have blurred the line, and everything for them is. And I get when you say it can't be helped, because I agree with you 100%.
I'm going to do.
Hang on. Let the noob go, and then I'll go about.
I'm going to be very short, and then I'm going to stop talking. So the what I was going to say is, it doesn't matter what the media says ever anymore because of funding. It doesn't matter anything. Nothing ever matters except funding. And you could say, well, it's damaging to have a bad whatever, but you say that, everyone says that, but that's not what's happening. And that's why the
funding past 3 years,
and that's why the company has taken a stance where it's ready when it's ready, which makes sense, because you see numbers, and it's numbers. It's we're not listening to anymore because you're noisy. I know that sounds like I'm being like an asshole about it, but I'm not. That's what they said. It's not what they meant, but it's what they said. Anyways, so nothing matters ever except the funding that's coming in. That's the only indicator that they're looking at, and what they're doing is good, smooth sailing, carry on. So
okay, come on.
I agree. Now, what I was referring to specifically as what people are misreading were things that were on like the release view, right? Saying when things were targeted for certain patches. Well, hey, stuff happens in development, and sometimes things get pushed, or we get to a point where we say, well, we can't really release that without this underlying technology being in place, so we got to push that to another patch, right? And so people were looking at things on a release view as promises when they weren't. They were
but that was the problem. Like, there's a difference between how CIG intended the release view to be used and how their customers were using it. And in my opinion, CIG did the right thing by pulling the two patches off the end of the release view. That's exactly what they needed to do.
Indeed.
The wording could have been more diplomatic when they explained the community, as Noobifier brought up. But in my opinion, those last two patches for the last two core patches were useless. They were science fiction as far as moving on to fantasy, because none of that stuff ever made it. When those patches started coming up, they were completely different every time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
just making people bitter and resentful, and it just gave more ammunition to the people who wanted to conflate Star Citizen with Squadron 42 and just get clickbaits on articles. So it was just kind of pointless. Now you got the progress tracker. You can look at that, make Noobifier, Board Gamer, all those YouTubers can all sorts of speculative content. That's great content to make. You know, hey, look, this is finished. Do you think it'll end up? What patch do you think this will end up in? You know, we could talk about a podcast and whatnot.
Yeah. So
CIG kept putting their foot in their own mouth too. I mean, Xylo came out publicly in 2016 saying that he had played through
all the chapters,
the levels, chapters of Squadron 42.
He probably did.
I think back at the beginning when Chris Roberts initially thought about kickstarting, he set a goal that he was hoping that he would achieve, but he ended up getting like just a crazy amount of money. So I really believe that initially Chris Roberts was just going to take CryEngine and give us a Wing Commander reboot in CryEngine. And that was what Squadron 42 was going to be.
Right.
But then he was like, I got so much money, I'm going to go balls to the walls here and create something like you've never seen. And then, I'm sure he worked really, really hard and got up to 2016. And then, Chris Roberts and that feature creep, you know how he is, saw that new Planet Tech. And then the ideas just started blowing off in his head. And it just has been going ever since 10 years.
All right.
I think the one thing that really sells it home that they kind of bit off more than they could chew, especially around that point, was just how many different times we saw salvage on the roadmap. Like, you could say that there were reasons that they ended up discovering that caused salvage to be pushed back, but the amount of times it was delayed, it's like, there's no way it was going to be ready back then without the scope increasing a lot.
I want to interject something here. I want to go back to the original question of earliest days of development Squadron 42 treated with skepticism. I think Star Citizen Squadron 42 was received rather well early on, before 2014. And then around 2014, 2015, when things got a little bit more bitter, and then stuff has just kind of been going, kind of goes up and down, kind of with the cycles and whatnot. But I definitely feel like there's more bitter, salty vets in the community these days.
Definitely.
And we still see an influx of new people who are discovering Star Citizen for the first time. Oh, cool! I never heard of Star Citizen before. I get it every so often. Every time there's a free fly on my channel, on my Twitch channel. But I feel like the bitterness really peaked around 2016, 2015, when that debacle with Squadron 42 getting pushed back and the feature creep, the expanding of the scope of Star Citizen. That's where I kind of feel like everything kind of peaked with a certain individual independent game developer who I will not name because that man does not need any more publicity. Like, absolutely no one needs to talk about him because he's never done anything worth talking about ever in his entire life.
He's actually the next section.
Yes, actually he is. We might as well bring him up.
It's almost like I read the
spoke him up. You spoke him up. Okay, well, why don't we talk about that? As most of you know, let me jump to the question here so everybody can read it. As most of you know, critics like Derek Smart, who's a well-known critic at the time of Star Citizen, especially in that mid-period that HC was just talking about. His history in game development goes back to the 1980s, just like Chris Roberts. He was the go-to guy for many industry magazines and content creators who didn't understand the project. And though we haven't heard much from him recently, do you feel his opinions about the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42 had or still does have impact?
No.
Tell us what you really think.
On the community.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
this guy
go ahead,
comes
AC.
out and tells us how the company's going to fail within 90 days 5 years ago. Absolutely nothing this man has ever said is any weights.
He said that this game could not be made with less than $300 million. And he was right.
Yeah.
He was right.
That's the only thing he was right about.
Okay, so he's right about that.
That one thing, right? NoobiFire, what about you? You got any thoughts about, was his voice strong enough to have impact, or was it just out in the wind?
I've got notes.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Boy.
Let's hear it.
He's prepared.
First of all, Derek Smart can go suck gentleman's sausage in the back alley of his choosing.
Spicy notes.
His perceived relevance is only magnified by the drama that he created. So he's only something because he was perceived as something. His game failed He was butthurt, and he doesn't deserve to be discussed or heard. Next question.
Okay.
Wow.
Fair enough. Take it from somebody who was there. Tomato. Any thoughts?
I'd like to give my minutes to Noob so you can keep going. Oh my god.
Well, let me say this. And I'm speaking from someone who was, everybody here was around during this time period. And there was a huge, many people don't know this, but there was a huge thing that came up in relation to this person where it got very personal at a very personal level, and some really bad things happened. Was that like maybe 2015 to 2017, maybe something like that? And so we often will say the person whose name we will not speak anymore, because as was mentioned earlier, we try not to give too much information. But I do want to ask this question from a serious point of view, because I do remember that there were a lot of people who used to bring this voice onto their shows or write articles. They'd be quoting him. He was all over Reddit. He had a blog, and people were really tuning in to the fuel that he was throwing in there. Toy, let me ask you, any thoughts you have before we move on to the next question in relation to that?
Well, I mean, from what I understand, he's got a personal history with Chris Roberts. I mean, they're both creating, back in the day, space games.
Right.
So they're direct competitors for what they're doing. And, at the time, and I'm sure he still does, he had a pretty big following. So there was a lot of, clatter with everything he said, because he, had that online mob to back him up. So, and that's why people listened, I think.
Yeah. He had a different type of space genre game. And there were people, I know people to this day that still talk about Battle, whatever it was, 3000, but there were people that were into that game, weirdly enough. And he did have an audience.
I remember playing the demo. I remember the demo for Battlecruiser 30,000 AD when it came on a PC Gamer Meg. I thought it was pretty cool, but it was like beyond me at the time. I was too young to really care about that.
Yeah, 100-page book for that sucker. It was a monster.
Yeah.
Colossus,
I went and looked at it.
No,
and
I don't remember playing any of it. He's just a video game's equivalent to Rudolph Giuliani to me.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Toy, were you saying something? I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I went and looked at it, and if he would have had 10 extra years to work on it, maybe it'd have been a really good game.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I agree with you, HC. All right, we're gonna move past that one then. Let's get into the next one. Okay. How have you kept from becoming salty? Now let me I looked up the definition of salty in cyberdefinitions.com, because everybody has their own definition. Okay, look,
let's find out the Merriam-Webster. Let's find the Merriam-Webster version of salty.
Salty means to be upset or bitter in an online gaming context. If someone dies a lot, is disrespected by other players, or has some other reason, usually a small reason, to feel aggrieved, they often describe it as being salty. It is probably that salty derives from the act of crying salty tears. However, it has long been a term used by members of the Navy to mean someone who's jaded or bitter, which is a fairly good fit for how the word is used in gaming. In maritime context, the term derives from someone who has been at sea for a long period of time, such as a salty sea dog. And there's a connotation that the person has been passed over for promotion, giving rise to the idea of being jaded or bitter. Players who are salty can quickly become toxic. They can develop a bad attitude. So
those pH levels.
Yeah. So, and I mean, we joke around about saltiness and stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, everybody on this panel has been known for having their critique of Star Citizen, but they're also supporters of Star Citizen. I have not seen them have a quote unquote bad attitude. I've seen them be upset. I've seen them frustrated. My question is for you guys, because you're still here after all this time, what's kept you from becoming from that salt to toxic level? And I'll go to Tomato this time. You're the new guy on the block. I'll go to you first.
Sure. To be honest, like you said, we've all been salty. I think the main thing is just to remember that you can be, more than one dimension. I mean, anybody who's defining their entire sort of view of something, or all of the content they put out about something as being one way, it's not really going to be that interesting for that long. We got to have more than one dimension. You got to have more than one opinion. So I think most of the time it seems like there's a lot of chances when people have to not be salty or even to not be all in, 100% excited. But it's just like that problem I was talking about earlier. It's all one way or the other. And a lot of times people just choose to let one feeling dominate them.
Okay. Noobifier.
Whoops.
You didn't even let the word out. You didn't even let them get the word out.
That's how we treat our guests here. Anyways, so I think it's human to question. That's the easiest thing to say, if and it's also as a content creator, I get nothing out of flaming the company all the time. Like that's not what people want to hear. But there's a certain level of objectivity that you can bring to a conversation. And I try very hard to not necessarily inject my own opinion all the time in content. I try to research, show, and let the community decide, let the viewer decide. And it's perfectly fine. Everyone's entitled to their own their own opinion of the game. Because we all have the same amount invested in it. We all want the same thing, which is kind of funny. Whether or not we all expect the same thing out of the thing we want is another, like that's PvP sliders and all the other stuff. But no, it's for me, it doesn't make any sense for me to, I'll give you an analogy and then I'll be quiet. I was at work, a guy came to work every day and he said, I hate my wife. She's this, she's this, she's this, and blah, 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 blah. And after a week, he asked me what my opinion was. I said, divorce her. Right? Why are you still here? If you hate that much, why are you still here? You obviously love that, or you would shut up and just divorce it. So Chris Roberts' game, we all love it secretly.
Point well made, Toy.
Yeah, I say that about somebody that we don't talk about much. I mean, why are you wasting all your time hating on something when you can go out and do something else that you enjoy? I call BS when I see BS, but overall, what I look at this project is if they make progress every single year, I'm still 100% behind it. I understand game development is hard. This game is going to be nothing, and it is right now, nothing like anything we've ever seen. I mean, yes, we have like a No Man's Sky that has a universe, but it's based off a mathematical equation. You go to one planet, you've seen all of them. And it's not anywhere near the scale and scope of Star Citizen is, and it just blows me away every time I get in and play it. And yeah, there's bugs that bother me and stuff, but I know they're going to get to them sometime.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Okay. HC?
I just remember that scene from Avengers where they're asking the Hulk, how do you prevent yourself from becoming the Hulk? And he turns around and tells him, there is no secret. That is my secret. Sometimes you just have to embrace it. If you're frustrated, you try to express your frustration in an extremely appropriate. You try to find what has made you frustrated. You try to rationalize that. This is why I'm angry. This is exactly what I'm angry at, and this is the situation that this thing has brought me into. I'm not angry at certain individuals. I'm angry at certain situations. I'm angry at the speed of development, the state of development. 10 years, 300 some odd $1 million, and we still can't get the elevators to work in Grimhex properly.
But I've tried to explain this a bunch of times. They're not creating. So they had to start with an engine because that's what Chris Roberts promised. But so they have to maintain that engine, which really isn't made for what they're doing, this big, huge MMO. Also, redesign
it's Lumberyard. They've had 10 years to make it what they want it to be.
They did, but they're still.
It's probably even no longer a CryEngine anymore.
Oh no, it's not.
Well, yeah, sure. No, it's definitely not. But I mean, they're not done with it. This isn't. Remember, they have 10 network guys. They might have a 800-man crew or whatever they're up to now, but they got 10 network guys. So all the really, really hard tasks they only have a handful of people for. They got 1 billion artists. And that's great because we need lots of pretty art, but the coding is where all the meat and potatoes is.
I just heard recently someone was doing an article talking about hiring in the gaming industry, and they said that right now trying to get good people hired is miserable that they're all someplace already. They're not sitting around waiting to get, these calls to come work. And I'm curious, I know CIG has had over 100 positions open for quite some time. And people
I've heard rumors about that too, that CIG has been having troubles getting positions filled.
A lot of people.
COVID mostly takes the responsibility for this. Not only do you have the death toll from COVID, but you also have people getting injured from COVID and then having to either retire or change careers. Gaming in general has never been a very well-paying field to begin with. If I have a viewer that stops my channel every so often, he's working in AI. Basically, he helps build AI designed to teach people how to do stuff, right? And we've talked about his pay scale privately. I'm not too sure if I want to talk about it publicly, but he makes very well for himself. And we've joked with him like, why don't you? Hey, CIG has like an AI position open. Would you like to go work for CIG as like their lead AI guy? And he's like, I don't want to take a 50% pay cut.
Yeah.
So even the network guys, you could make far more money working for Cisco, IBM,
corporate,
working
absolutely.
for Wells Fargo, working network security for them. You could make 6 figures easily, if not higher, going to work for some big company, big firm working in their IT department. Boeing, I don't know if McDonnell's, Douglas, or Airbus is around. Hell, they'll have like IT departments. You could probably go work for them pretty comfortable compared to like video games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
okay,
COVID has changed the landscape a lot for a lot of people. People have retired. People obviously, at least in America, birth rates are down. People are not having children as much. Immigration, thanks to 2016, has kind of tapered off a little bit, so we don't have a lot of people immigrating to America. COVID has also kind of clamped down on immigration a little bit. People are staying, people aren't transitioning between countries as much. So, so the labor force has kind of stagnated, if not declined a little bit. People aren't entering the workforce at the rate they used to.
But CIG has also had an outstanding you had to come into the office thing until COVID hit, that is. And where their offices are located aren't really like LA. I mean, if you were in Silicon Valley, maybe you can find a lot more programmers, but downtown LA, Austin, Texas, the only reason they have the office down there is Tony Zervik works from there. So
I mean, even with work from home, they're still having trouble finding people.
Everybody is. Like I said, that's what I said. The industry is just really tough. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. Plus, I'm going to get you guys next because I'm watching our time here, and I want these guys to be able to talk about these next couple questions. Criticize or critique, are they equal, and which is done more? I'm going to give the audience the definitions that I drug up for these two words. To criticize is to indicate the faults of someone or something in a disapproving way. As to critiquing is a detailed analysis and assessment of something. I'm not saying either one is right or wrong. I'm just asking, are they equal? Which one as panelists do more? Do you think people do more in the community? Let's start out with Toy on this one.
Well, they're definitely not equal. And I see the community do a lot more criticizing than they do critiquing. That's for sure. Of course, critiquing is also can be interpreted as criticizing. And hopefully, when CIG sees some of these, these things we try and point out that are, meaningful to us, that they don't take it the wrong way.
Okay.
So
HC?
I think critiquing is generally comes from a more positive place where you're trying to your tone or your intention may be a little bit better. You're trying not to, you're trying to be more respectful to the person. Criticizing can sometimes be more, you're trying to get your point across, but you're a little bit more crass about it, and you don't really consider the people you're talking about as much. I see a lot of criticizing in general, just in the gaming sphere. Civility is something I feel like that's kind of dying off when it comes to the internet. People don't really consider that there's another person behind the camera, and so I catch myself with that sometimes as well. Like it's I used to be a troll in my younger days a little bit, but these days, you have to realize that, hey, there's another person behind the screen.
You're getting that gray in your beard, dude. You start getting older. That's what happens.
I know, right?
Embrace it.
Noobifier.
So one is noise. The company's already said it. So they both have merit depending on the intended aim or the gravity of the situation. It's a video game. Nothing is very important. It's a video game. It's not like on a scalar of needs, it's kind of low. But generally remaining objective results in a better reception of the idea that you're trying to project. So
wait a minute. I paid $45 for my package. What are you talking about? Nothing's important on the scale.
Entitlement is there.
It's a piece of entertainment. I get it, right?
Compared to some of the other things,
entitled to a good experience, right? Consider if I paid $45, I at least expect some stuff to work.
Sure.
Or I expect my money back. Maybe I'll check back in a couple of years, Chris Roberts. That's why I like the free flies, right? You could try it out, see if you like Star Citizen, and if it's just too much for you can
your
just
brain is just destroyed by this game.
So what else were you going to say, Noobifier?
I was just going to say that there's the difference between what it was, critiquing and being criticizing is like a thing that we do in the military. You can say something is fucked or it's broken, but you have to say how to fix it. Right? That's professional, and that's the difference between critique and criticize.
Let me ask you this then, based on what you said. I know that a lot of us try to be backseat developers, right? And is there some frustration in the fact that because I don't want to say we think we know how to fix it, or if it's just because the fact we don't know how to fix it, it comes off, right? Is that the part of the problem too, that there's frustration because, even though we've talked about this transparency and everything else, even if we saw everything, many of us wouldn't know what the real fix is. Is that part of why we're frustrated too? So
I'd love to talk about a small section of this that'll answer that whole question.
Okay.
And it's even just last Christmas. It is being out of touch with the community and things that people had in that company ought to have known how they would be received. It is like they're not playing their own game, but it's not that. It's like they can't place themselves in our position and role play. Right. And if you had, this is going to sound super negative because there are real professionals in that company, but I'm going to take just the marketing, and the marketing is obviously doing a great job because there are billions of dollars of money flowing around. So here I am, like my conversations are relevant. But what I was going to say is an actual trained person who went to university to learn about social media and interaction and all this other stuff, they would know that releasing a bicycle handle on the 6th day. Sorry, that's a really narrow thing that I'm trying to make, but it's more generalized. And you can go back every single CitizenCon. There was something that was tone deaf. 20
bucks CitizenCon for $20. You want to watch CitizenCon? Pay $20.
I'm not trying to open up this gigantic
but we got you.
shithole.
There's more.
Yeah.
We could really rip stuff open if we wanted to.
The easiest thing I would like to say is how easy would it be? And I'm not saying that it has to be Board Gamer, but he's already on NDA. It could be you, Tomato, it could be anyone. It doesn't matter. They should have a litmus test.
Yeah.
They should say, in 1 week, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? And again, I don't want them to call me because I don't want to be responsible for it. So I'm a real hypocrite here, right? I don't want to be in charge of the bomb.
Let me say something you just said to that, because a little while ago I said this to some people and they kind of flipped out when I said it. And I was just trying to use this as a way of reference. I said I wish CIG had some type of focus group that they could run stuff past that's real. And let me direct this to you, Tomato, based on what both Noobifier and HC have said. Is this an issue? Is this an issue because, one of the things that people get scared of when a company starts, right, is that it starts out small and friendly and warm. Remember how great we used to feel about the ATVs and RTVs, and we were all family and we were still in the garage, right? But then as you start to become corporate, there's this feeling of detachment that eventually the company no longer hears. They become deaf, and there's that relationship that people felt that was there before. Do you think that is critical? The CIG, in other words, I'm saying the CIG needs to make a proactive, not assumptions, but proactive, like Noobifier said, and say, we still got to reach out to people that we know have a passion and heart. Just like you would do a screening for a movie, right? You're going to put a movie out, you screen it out for people and get their feedback. Right, a test group. Is that something that CI needs to do? Because, and by the way, Noobifier, It wasn't the handle of the bike. It was on that last picture on the last day that we didn't get the bike.
The handle was a nice precursor.
It was.
Fun fact.
But we were supposed to get a bike, not a JPEG. We're supposed to get a bike.
You can actually melt that picture of the entire bike for $0.
If you never want to see it again.
You can't melt the handle.
Yeah.
You can't delete the handle.
Can't delete the handle.
Oh my God.
There you go. Okay, so Tomato, what do you think? Is to point with Noobifier saying that being disconnected, is that part of this thing we're criticizing and thinking? Yeah.
I think that's huge. And I think that goes both ways. Part of it is also that, well, like you guys were getting towards, we don't know exactly what needs to be done to fix certain things. So like, it's really hard. It's super hard to look at something in the game and be like, but why isn't this done? This should be done. And then you sit back, put yourself in their situation and say, well, there's all this that could be going wrong. I just wish I got to know, like I wish I got to know why the 890 jump mission improvements were on the progress tracker for being completed in their scheduled work last October, but we don't know anything about it, because something may have happened, but we don't know. I think that's the communicative problem that they have. And I think that leads to a lot of the criticism that they get, because a lot of people will come in and be like, yo, this inventory sucks. Why didn't you just make double click to equip? Why doesn't this work? Blah, 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 blah. And, usually they have a decent answer for it, but it never gets out.
It never gets to us.
Noise, because the money keeps coming in.
Okay. Yeah. Gomob, any thoughts on that about the criticism critique?
Yeah. To SpaceTomato's point, I agree, right? I think, when you take a step back, there's usually a good reason, right? I just assume there's a good reason. And it would be nice for them to get on to an ISC or something like a Reddit post or a tweet, and to kind of say, hey guys, this is what's going on. But if they did that for everything that we thought we wanted to know, they'd never have a chance to actually work on the game. Right. So
Disco's only job is to make the videos. It's not like we're pulling developers away. This is what our subscriber dollars are for. So, and they're making millions of dollars in just subscriber dollars.
Yeah. And he's telling us about stuff that's coming and sprint reports. And he does a good job, I believe, on doing that stuff. And I believe they do touch on, the bigger things that bubble up a lot of the times. And they step on their tongues a lot, when they're trying to communicate. They definitely need somebody in there that's like, hey guys, what are you thinking here? Like, that was stupid. You shouldn't release that. That's not gonna fly well with humans,
with the audience.
So but at the same time, I find myself being like, every time I get my 600i, I'm like, who the hell designed these MFDs where it's two of the same thing in here? Like, what incompetent jerk? Wait, hold on. Nobody did this on purpose. It was probably programmatically done and just was looked over. It has not been a priority because there's going to be a rework. Okay, let me step back from that and not get upset, right? I think, there's people that criticize because that's their brand. And there's people that critique because they just like having the conversation. Like we said before, it's healthy to critique something you care about, especially when the company is listening, because then they can get feedback from us. When you just criticize and you don't take anything else in consideration, it's just noise and a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah. Kelosal, I'm gonna throw a different question to you that's a spin off this, and it has to do with the way the community responds to things. With criticism and critique. And I know it's difficult when we look at things like Spectrum, Reddit. A lot of times we see more people raising the issue, but I'm going to go back to what I asked Noobifier a little bit earlier. Is there frustration because we know how to raise the issue, but we honestly don't know what to say to fix it? Is that why there's more criticizing than critiquing? Because we don't know how to give an analysis to say, here's how to fix this or how to make it better. All we can just complain about, I'm not gonna say complain. The only thing we do is raise the issue of what's wrong, and that's it? Or is it because we don't understand development? Like Gomob said, maybe this is gonna be fixed. If we start fixing it now, we gotta do a bunch of, the code is bad. We gotta do a whole bunch of other stuff. That's why we can't do it now. We're gonna do it all 8 months from now. Do we need to hear that update that Tomato said of saying, because Gomob saying if they respond to everything, they'll be dominating a lot of time, but when there's something that the community is looking for and it doesn't happen, does CIG owe us something and say, not only is it not happening, but here's why. Some of you guys remember they were doing this newsletter at one point where they would say, this is what we did, this is what we got wrong, and this is how we want to fix it. They did it in an e-letter form, but I wish they had did that in verbally saying, this is why Salvage didn't come out last time.
Or even a burn down. Like the burn down was
the burn down.
a great series.
Yes.
10 for the chair, great series.
Yes.
And
even
Calling All Devs, great series. And I'm not Jared. I'm not going to say, oh, you should just do this, because he obviously has his own priorities and triage and all kinds of other stuff. So who am I to say, go grab some developers and shake them for information, right? But Calling All Devs. He said that it took a lot of time to put together, and I can appreciate that it takes time to get people together. But damn it, was that ever informational? That was, to me, more useful than Inside Star Citizen is.
But you know, there are people in Noobifier who don't like those shows. They're boring. They're looking. I'm just telling you, there are people who say it was boring. But you know what I'm saying? There are people who say, oh, that stuff's boring. They want to see the features. They want to see what's coming next, right?
Citizen Con.
I thought the exact same thing about like the what was it? Not the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The
Lore Maker's Guide.
Lord Maker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Lore Maker's Guide. Yeah, I hardly ever watched those. I thought those were boring. It's different fans like different things.
Right.
Paul likes them for sure.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, Paul loved them.
Oh, yeah.
I get away with them. That's sure great.
Yeah, Kelosal, what were you going to say? I'm going to give Kelosal, and then we're going to go into the next question. What are you going to say?
In my experience, usually the people that do critique usually come in the first time. And after the first time, when things don't happen the way they've critiqued, then they become criticizers. So a lot of the times, the critiquers are usually the quiet ones. Usually. They're usually the ones that handle things behind the scenes. They're usually ones that try to go ahead and address things the right way. But often what I also see is that those people, they feel like they're ignored, so they become criticizers. So that's usually what I see. You know, they usually critique first before they criticize.
Okay. And there are some people who feel that CIG is not listening. There are a lot of people who say that, but I know when we've met,
maybe CIG is listening, but they just haven't had the means to solve it.
What are you gonna say, Noobifier?
I was just gonna say that in many ways, I think they shouldn't.
There's a lot of people who say that, because they think that throws it off responding to the community.
Whatever is coming up on question 8, we're gonna address that one then, because it's pretty deep into.
We know they're listening because they nerfed the Ion because folks were crying.
Listen, they gotta be.
Or we know they're not listening because they haven't put VTOL on the freelancer yet.
Don't start on that. Don't start on that.
They have to be really, really, really careful with how much they listen, because that is exactly what killed Star Wars Galaxy.
That's right. That's right. That's
as much as I love information, if I was the company, roles reversed, I would
close it down. There you go.
I would not listen to anything, because the money keeps coming in, and that's your indicator. When the money stops coming in,
that's when you know.
That's when things are bad, because you said it, Spectrum and Reddit, that's 0.1% of the community, and they're super pissed off all the time. So you can go in there and your head would explode. You'd think that the world's coming apart, but then the ship money keeps coming in.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So either Spectrum is fucked and everything is fine, right? That's what that says. So you shouldn't listen to Spectrum.
Yeah. Okay.
And that leads to the inevitable question of, does that mean they should just continue with the development since it's going so well?
Sounds great.
That's another podcast, right?
I've asked that question to Griff. You know, I sat there and said, I was relieved that they changed and changed the whole thing about the roadmap and things like that. I bet you they are stress free from that, because ever since they've changed all that, you don't hear all these people running around here talking about read promises, read. You don't hear that anymore.
It's quiet.
And for me, you know, I said a long time ago, even on this show, the less they dish out, the better, because every time you dish out more stuff, you got all these people keep changing things and keep wanting this and wanting that and wanting this. I'd rather not be told. I would just have the expectation of what are they going to do instead of being told what could happen. Yeah, because it just leads to a whole bunch of problems. Go ahead.
1000%, 1000% with what you said. Tell me what's coming, not what you want to do. Tell me what you're going to do.
What's committed,
and that's a surefire way of neutralizing everything. Trust me, I love the roadmap. It was a great source of information, and it was content and all that other stuff. But I never ever did things that I'm excited for.
I did.
Those ones there, the things that I'm excited for, like 317's coming out, the five things I love. It was always a recipe for a shitstorm because you'd make the video. This is based on what we know now, even though we don't know anything because it's a roadmap. And then it would get stripped and everyone would be pissed off. And then there's the why I'm pissed off about 317. Like it's 2 videos every patch.
Hey, there you go.
I just never bothered. So I hate it, but I like it. Let me say, I hate it, but I appreciate why.
Yeah.
Is the best way of saying it.
Okay. Alrighty.
Seems like a lot of my feelings for business decisions I see made. Like, God, this sucks, but I get you.
No, good stuff. All right, let's just jump into this next one then. I'm going to start off with HC on this one. What part of the development about Squadron 42 are you critical about? And then what part of the development of Star Citizen are you critical about? If you had to pick one thing from each. One thing from each.
I mean, just the lack of any sort of shows. I mean, they have an email update they put out every month for Squadron 42, and it's just this list of stuff we got done. And I like the idea of the briefing room.
Yes,
but it didn't need to be an hour long on one comm array. And I saw the briefing room episode. They took that acetyl comm array apart, millimeter by millimeter for like 45 minutes, and that should have been like a fly through for like 15 minutes. Yeah. And I can't help but believe that kind of demonstrates to me that the reason why Squadron 42 is so late is because they're putting that level of detail into everything in the game. And I'm just like, why would you do that? Like, why not just have a couple set pieces that your character goes into instead of having everything that detailed? But so I would love to see more YouTube videos on what exactly Squadron 42 is. You know, set pieces, like, oh, you're going to go into a factory or something. Like, here's this cool factory we designed for one of our levels. Wink. Or here's like the first level we got. The very first. Here's a tutorial level we're working on.
Okay.
You know.
What about Star Citizen?
For Squad 42. Star Citizen is I almost have to go back to Noobifier. Like, it's just some of the stuff they put out with the marketing just is so tone deaf. They need to run it by an actual human being before they put it on the website sometimes.
Yeah.
To sanity check it.
Yeah. Okay. Some of you guys just saw recently that they put the comment out. Remember the trailer that came out for Star Wars Eclipse back in December? Did you guys see what happened a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
They announced that it'll be out in 2027. People went crazy. They're like, "What do you put a trailer out for?" So yeah, if you put out stuff too early, people do freak out. That's my point.
Yeah.
Over here, like, first time,
right? Toy, let me go to you for Squadron 42. What's one point you're kind of critical about, and then same thing for Star Citizen.
So I hate that every couple of years they just keep coming out with trailers or whatever. I don't mind the update that they had planned, but then of course Chris Roberts got a hold of it and it turned into this hour-long show and stuff that we don't need. I mean, at the most I would like to see is maybe it doesn't even have to be like the full vertical slice, but just the progress they've made since the Morrow tour or vertical slice. I don't want to see new stuff. I don't want spoilers, but I just like to see where these past, since 2016, or it wasn't 2016, 2017, when we got the vertical slice, just what improvements they made from there. I mean, I have what I think is the big holdup with all this development with it, but that's, I don't know.
Okay.
And as far as Star Citizen, I mean, I know these guys are working hard on this engine, and this engine is taking a long time. And I've looked up other games that have had longer development times than Star Citizen, believe it or not, and aren't even MMOs, some of them. And so I'm not really critical too much about it. Okay. I mean, really, my only critical question is it seems like after every single patch, the same bugs get reintroduced. And I saw that in other games. I saw that in Conan. I've seen it in other similar games, but that's about it for me. Okay. I give them all the benefit. I want them to work. I want them to get this game out. I've met a lot of these developers in real life, and they're just as passionate as we are about this game. So give them all the time in the world, as long as it turns out good.
Okay. Noobifier.
I'm going to sound really insensitive and ignorant because Chris Roberts has said it's ready when it's ready. I want a simple website where I can go to, which is a circle, and it looks like Pac-Man. And the Pac-Man closes as things are done on the fucking game. Because right now, we have no scaler.
No bearing.
Absolutely no scaler as to what is complete and where the progress is. I don't want a countdown timer because I know better than to ask for that. But you can give someone a percentage complete. And yes, you could argue that that's the Gantt chart. But the Gantt chart ends in 1 month.
Right.
I'm just kidding. But it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. It's got no fucking context.
We had that with Squadron 42, and then it disappeared because Squadron 42 was supposed to be new beta by now. Actually, 2 years ago, Squadron 42 was supposed to be beta.
But what I'm asking for is completed, incomplete by a percentage. That's it. And I don't care if it takes another 15 years to come out. I'd like to know that it's at 95%.
Like the doomsday clock.
Well,
that's 90.
in all things computing, right? You know, those percentage bars and stuff. Those are percentage of tasks completed, not percentage of time remaining.
Good.
So you know that last 2% could be.
It could sit there. It could sit there.
90% of the time.
I'm okay with that.
Right, that's
I just said
fine,
I'm
right.
okay with that. I don't care when.
Yeah.
But I want to know
How much of the work is
progress.
done.
And if they add another log to the fire, like they said, well, we need to add another planet to Squadron 42,
See it open
and it
back
goes
up.
from 95 to 93, and they say we added a new planet. I'm like, cool, bro.
How about
I'll see you in a year, right?
How about this? How about they finish that 100%, and then that gets them to the 50% mark on the game. It's 100% of the 50.
Well, just to remind everybody, the developers of Warframe said that game is not a finished product.
Oh, shut up.
I mean, like,
Don't even
that's
start.
the new thing today that triggers a lot of people. This is where you get a lot of pushback. We go back to the very first question, why people are negative about Star Citizen. Living products on games as a service. These are things, macro transactions. We're not microtransactions anymore. We're macro transactions. This is the stuff that really triggers the community. It's like, it really gets some bile flowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember playing Eve. I remember playing Eve, and there were things in Eve. I was in there for 7 years. I love that picture. I was in Eve for 7 years, and I remember bugs that existed through that whole 7-year period. They were putting out updates, new things to Eve, and some of the same broken stuff was still there. And that is frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. Thank you for the follow, Kaglaz, and Thrakazog, as always. Thank you for the sub. We appreciate that. Whammer appreciates it too. Okay, let's hit this next question here.
Oh, let me get my salt out. You didn't get me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tomato. I'm sorry. I'm totally sorry. Give it to us. Let's see what you got.
All right, Squadron 42. Actually, I'm pretty much the same with the others. As opposed to a progress bar, I like pretty things. So I would really love for them to give us a yearly update at CitizenCon. My ideal thing would be like a nice previs demonstration of a solid 15 minutes from a mission that has a decent amount of like gunplay, maybe a conversation, so we could see how that kind of works. Like we got the vertical slice, but to be honest, I don't think anybody really believes that's how that segment's going to play out anymore. I know what Squadron 42 is supposed to be, but I don't know what it's supposed to be. I just know it's going to be a space opera that's cinematic, but I've never played Freelancer or Wing Commander, whichever.
Played Wing Commander 3 or Wing Commander 4. That's
right,
what Chris Roberts goes for. He's the Hideo Kojima before Hideo Kojima came to the West. He wants to be a movie director, but he can't make it in Hollywood, so he makes really cinematic video games. That's Chris Roberts.
That's what I'm saying though. Like, I don't know anything about Chris Roberts. I really love to be able to have an idea of what this game's going to be like when that happens. All we've gotten are trailers, which tell me a ton about stories and characters and the vibe of the game. We've gotten the vertical slice, which showed me that there's ship flying and there's some ground segments, but I don't know that much about how it's going to play out. And I'd love for them to be able to come to us 1 year and show us, hey, this is how it's working so far with the state of AI, the state of gameplay. Like, this is what it looks like. Oh, that's not that great. We see it again the next year. Hey, this is like some of the work we've been doing over the course of the year. Here's what the scene looks like now. Maybe that's unrealistic, but I just like to see the progress like that.
It's not unrealistic. There was a variation of what you're talking about when we first saw the Morrow Tour. That was the first time that we got that behind the curtain kind of look. And then a few years later, we got the one with the Mark Hamill piece and everything else. But the slices have stopped there. It's interesting you say that, because there's a question about wanting to know where they are in the tech of development and versus where they are in the game. And a lot of people have kind of taken the attitude of we don't want to know about the game, you know. But at the same time, there are people who do want to. Some people have asked for another vertical slice. I don't want to see one to be. I don't want to see anything that reveals anything to the story. Let me put it to you that way.
Wasting the time on it.
And that was the other side of the coin. If they did do it, they'd have to dedicate something that has absolutely nothing to do with the story to show it to us, and then that takes away work too. So I'm a little nervous, but I get what you're saying to a certain degree, Tomato. Noobifier, I want to go back to something you said about that countdown, that percentage thing that you talked about. Because we can look at the map and everything else and get all those notes, but it really doesn't give us a bearing on completion. How close are we? I personally, and these guys have heard me say this on the show before, and Gomab, I'll get to you in Kelosal. They've heard me say this before. I think the 10-year mark is it for Squadron. We have to see something. I don't care if in November, if we get an announcement, you know, second quarter 2023, first quarter, I don't care. But I think that there's going to start being some reticence that's going to start to build, and we're actually going to be able to see it if we get past 2022 and there's nothing being said. HC, you mentioned about the, what was the show called that they did with the 1 hour thing?
Briefing room.
The briefing room. When they opened that up with Brian Chambers, they said that it was going to be a regular update. We got that one briefing room and that was it. We didn't get any more. I wish we did get more of those. I wish we got the quarterly pillars talks where we hear from those folks quarterly. Those made us feel good when we heard from the heads of departments giving us updates on where they were.
I love Brian Chambers. I love Sean Tracy. I love Tony Z. I love Chris Roberts. I love Aaron Roberts. I like the energy they bring to the camera. When they talk about their work. But honestly, I'm getting to the point where I think they don't have anything else to really add. They pretty much said everything they had, and now it's just them to actually up to them to deliver what they've all the stuff they've said previously.
Yeah, that could be. Go back real quick, you guys. Let me get you in Kelosal real quick on Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. What's the thing you're most critical about?
Yeah, Squadron 42. From someone who came into the game primarily for Star Citizen, you know, my biggest thing I'm critical about Squadron 42 is like I want them to just go ahead and get it done with so they can focus on the game I want to play. Honestly, now with Star Citizen, one of the things I'm most critical about, and you guys have probably heard me say it a few times, is that while I appreciate them coming out with new ships, I wish they would show more love to the older ships, right? You know, right now, I know they go back and do reworks. I would like them to bring up more of those ships, the reworks of those ships in the pipeline with the new ships. So like it's kind of even. So every two new ships they put out, they're putting out 2 reworks of some of the older ships, like the Connies, the 600s and whatnot, right? Because we have a lot of ships in the game right now, and they're very good ships. But as new ships come out, like the MSR, it just completely negates a whole class of other ships, right?
But all those old ships have been sold already. They need to keep.
I understand that. That's why it's a critique, right? That's why it's a critique. Like I get it. You need to sell new ones, but to that end,
some more love to the other ones,
show some love to the other ones. And I think a lot of the newer people are coming in, they're not buying Connies, right? If the Connies was reworked, they would be. So that you're still getting new money regardless.
Kelosal.
Yeah, I'll go. Past Squadron 42 because you guys have said something, and GomabATL just basically said it. I'm just looking for a release date. As far as Star Citizen, I would like to see a lot more of the lore. I'm looking for POIs. I'm looking for that. I understand we're still in the Stanton system, but Stanton systems has a hell of a lot more that's out there that we see currently in the game. And I've always been a stickler on gameplay and lore. I've seen crappy games out there. No offense, I'm not a guy who loves Minecraft, but the gameplay is amazing. That's part of the reason why a lot of people can stand that type of pixelated game. I can't, but the gameplay is amazing. So if you give a good gameplay, even a crappy looking game could be phenomenal. So I'm just looking for lore, and more lore and POIs. And just bring those in the game so we can at least be able to dabble in exploration.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm looking for.
Cool. Mine will be, as I mentioned about Squadron 42, that they haven't kept their word on keeping us informed about it. I know they have good intention, but it just seems like things happen and it drifts in the background. But I also understand a lot of them keeping things behind in the background because of the project itself. For Star Citizen, my issue with Star Citizen has more to do with, again, some things that they said that they would do. I like, for example, the whole A is coming out, the raft is coming out. I am a little bit disturbed that we keep getting ships that come out and the mechanics aren't there when they come out.
And they said they would be.
And they said that they would be
on camera 1 year ago.
Right. And so I don't get me wrong. And HC, to your point, they still got to put those ships out in order to bring that revenue in. But you know, like one of the questions I always wondered is why did the Constellation Taurus take so long to come out? I know they did a redesign on it, but that ship came out years after the other ones. But it also had the most minimal amount of things on it. I never understood that. When the
Because there was just there was no priority. Like they needed to sell other ships, and it just kept.
But that ship sold. But you know what? When that ship came out, it sold. People bought that ship when it came out, and that was the weird thing about it. I mean, it was an easy sell. The raft. You know, again, same thing. They told us that when the hull A comes out, you'll be able to do this, but it won't have all of this in it. I just wish that when they introduce these ships, I know it's difficult to say that the mechanic will be ready. But I wish that was the case, because otherwise these are just ships to ride around in, and we buy the ships not because they're pretty, but because we want to be able to do what the ships are ascribed to do. So that's my only thing that I have to say about that.
Unless you're an Origin Jump fan.
Yes.
Unless you're an Origin Jump
Say that again. Say that again, AC. Absolutely.
Unless you're an Origin Jump fan,
why I'm happy.
You just want to look pretty.
That's why I'm happy. I'm happy.
I mean, on the contrary, though, they released the 400i as an exploration vehicle that can't use its exploration table.
Well, that's true. You can't use the cartography table, right? And I had a real big beef about the 400i personally, because I felt that I just felt that they didn't keep it for the 1%ers like me. They made it available to other players. So that was my issue with that. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. All right, let's hit this next question. Let me go to Toy on this one. Does community rage have a positive or negative impact? I mean, when the community goes up in arms about something, Kelosal mentioned the Ion earlier, the Ares rather. Is that a good thing, or is it a negative thing?
It's definitely a negative thing.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts about it? I mean, if you got any thoughts about it, go ahead, Toy.
No, I just, they say any publicity is good publicity, so it does bring eyes onto the business, but I don't know. I mean, I hate the fact that CIG is making changes based off a community input, especially when you bring up this ship. This ship is designed to take out capital ships, which we don't have a lot of in the game yet. I mean, you could say Hammerhead or Carrack or something like that, bigger ships, but that thing is not meant to be a dogfighter. Of course, people are using it for dogfighters, and if they're good aims or whatever, people stupid and sit there, they're going to get one shot. They should. It's a size 7 gun.
It should have never been made. It's a balanced nightmare.
Again for the folks in the back.
They should have never concepted it. It's a stupid idea that could never be balanced.
I made an entire 20-minute YouTube video on how much I hate the Ion specifically, and basically 20 minutes of me saying exactly what Noobifier just said. It should have never been concepted. It was a dumb idea. It's just bad all around for the game and balance the nightmare.
It is a meta ship. It's a golden gun. That's all that thing is.
But they made it.
They shouldn't have.
I love
It's a size 7.
Refund the money.
Nobody is afraid of.
Refund the money.
When I saw that thing
from the game.
When I saw that thing, I thought it was perfect because for using against when they add in bases or ground targets, it would be a perfect ship for that. It's not
you knew that's not what it's going to be used for. Gamers going to use it for whatever they want to use it for.
It's metagaming. You can't countermeasure the Ion like you can a torpedo. For years, we thought torpedoes were going to be the fighter-based or medium to large ship-based anti-capital ship weapon. And if you want guns that can deal with capital ships like the Idris, you're going to have to bring a bigger ship, like something bigger than a Connie.
Refund it.
And
that's
then
interesting.
And then the lore aspect of the Ion is, if the Ion, a heavy fighter, can have a size 7 gun, what can't now?
Put it on a Great Cat buggy.
If you're taking an Ion out, take the Eclipse with it, please.
The Eclipse is also lore-wise. Why would you sell this to people? Why would you sell it to people?
Or why would you sell it?
Because it's cool and it makes money.
They sold an A2 bomber immediately after selling land.
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. You hit it. You hit it, Noobifier. Noobifier, let me ask you, community rage, positive or negative impact?
The community noise is accountability to a point, right? We can agree with that, hopefully. The impact is both positive and negative depending on the context. So the question's a little bit...
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Anyways, there's no such thing as bad press. But when when we're happy, we're talking, but no one cares because we're happy. So it almost seems like CIG embraces or burns little parts of the community on purpose just to get a rise out of us this much. Not so we burn down the house, but just so we light the carpet on fire. Right? Just a little bit of
notice, right?
That's what the picture of the bike was.
It generates drama. So
Hover bike
based
picture.
on the funding, they're not wrong. Right? Because we can critique, as much as we want.
Right.
But like I say all the time, they're on record funding and they're untouchable. So what they're doing is exactly what they should be doing. And that's what the lessons that they're hearing are. So does rage have a positive or a negative impact? You'd have to talk to the bean counters about that one, because my opinion is irrelevant. Nobody should listen to me. I'm nobody. Listen to the bank.
He's the nobody fire.
That's interesting.
Right. So if nothing to lose except they, the company, because of the funding model, have nothing to lose except for the developers' jobs. Because if they go bankrupt, that's the only real casualty, is that 1,000 people are out of work. They don't lose money. We do.
Yeah.
Right? We're the idiots that are holding the stick.
Yeah.
So if it folds, it's all gone. The developers are laid off and the backers are left with nothing. So that's the worst case scenario, right? So does rage matter? Sure. It's great. It definitely gets a story going on the news, right? Because when everyone's happy, no one's talking.
True. SpaceTomato.
I agree to some extent. I also think though that the rage has, like, it's positive and negative, but I think it has pretty negative impact on the community itself, like mentally speaking. I've been around long enough to feel the everlasting effects of this roller coaster. But I think people who've joined in the last year or so, or last 2 years, I think the way that the rage can happen can really turn you off from wanting to be more involved with the community, which is, in my opinion, the best part of the game. I think it can also make you a little more reactional, whatever you want to call it, to people who also are coming in later or asking questions or are saying things about the game that they just simply don't know about. I think that's part of what creates that sort of animosity sometimes. In that sense, it's not the biggest problem, but I do think it has a secondary negative effect on, like, the mental capacity, or not capacity, but like the mental state of the whole community.
Okay. HC.
Building off what Noobifier says, if you're looking at the funding, it depends on what sort of positive negatives you're looking at, right? If you're looking at money, if you're a CIG employee bean counter and you're looking at your funding, rage really doesn't have any impact on you. But from someone who's a fan, when you have a lot of content being created on YouTube and Twitch and people are just not happy, it could shove potential customers away from your product. And I have friends that I talk to in real life. I mentioned Star Citizen, and it's like, oh, it's that game that's never going to release. Oh, it's that game that's a scam. Oh, it's that game that charges $3,000.
And they shouldn't be looking at the game if that's what they're thinking anyways. I'm okay with them not being here.
Yeah, but there are people who do feel that way. It's kind of like I don't want to use that as an example because that's too personal. But
can I try? Those people will buy the game when it
comes out. Right. There you go.
So it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter,
will later.
Like the reputation and everything. If it comes out properly, the last 10 or 20 years, none of it matters because everyone will be happy playing the game.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. The naysayers who will later on come in, and I do. Yeah, this whole thing. One of the difficulties with me with this project is and I know we say this and it sounds like it's an excuse, but it is something that's never been done before, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to even wrap their brain.
The crowdfunding's never been done
not
before.
Not the crowdfunding. Go ahead.
The MMO has been done before.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about an MMO.
On this level but
that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about backing an MMO. I'm talking about backing a visionary MMO, something that has never been done before. There have been plenty of games that we've crowdfunded as players, but I'm not backing this for that reason. I'm hopefully backing something that is going to change the way we play video games. And that's me personally. Some people are backing it just because they want to play a game. But I've been gaming for over 40 years, and I see games come and go. there are very few games that have had longevity, that have stuck around 10, 15, 20 years. I want that to be Star Citizen. I don't want Star Citizen to be something that I play and 6 months from now it's gone or I've moved on to something else. But that's me personally.
And that's one of the problem with Rage. Okay, if Star Citizen gets a bad rap, who are you going to be playing with?
True. Who
is going to be funding this game? Like, if there's no player base, even if we have thousands of whales who will dump millions of dollars into Star Citizen,
if it's not right, it'll go down the drain. I get you. I get you. Okay.
I can argue against that.
Go ahead.
Go for it. I love to hear your arguments. Noobifier.
So, Cyberpunk, worst game ever.
Woo!
Okay.
Oh, Cyberpunk.
Except that it's not, and it didn't, like, it came back, right? So
same with No Man's Sky. Worst
right.
game ever. And then 12 free expansions and updates.
Right. And I'm not saying
later.
that I want Star Citizen to come out shit and then get better. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that
Are you
predicting
predicting?
If Rage matters, the community is fickle, yes, and all that other stuff. But I stand by it that the people that we have now playing the game who like it are the right people right now to be backers.
Yeah.
And I have friends that come up to me, he's like, why would you even bother with this scam? And I'm like, you are not worth my time, right? I'm never going to convince you that it's not a scam. But when it comes out and they're watching the content, they're going to say, fuck, is that ever cool? I want to play that. Jack's Frags, level cap.
Yes.
Last 2 videos, cold playthrough. They haven't seen it in 2 years. They're like, my God, this is mind blowing. And that's the difference. That's what's going to matter when the game comes out. I know I sound like a white knight right now. It's not that at all.
No, not at all.
It's just literally none of that shit
spoilers
matters.
were fans of Star Citizen. I want people to enjoy Star Citizen. I want people to love the game. And I want to be able to play with those people,
but
right?
they can't. But in this state, but you're in a certain mental state where you can approach this game, and there are a lot of gamers who can't. The bugs and everything else just freaks them out, and they can't. And because they, as you said, HC, they have been pre-told all these bad stories about it.
Well, there's only so much time in the day. Like, if you got a job, you got a wife, you got kids. There's only so many free hours when you get home from work.
I get it.
For your own personal time and quality of entertainment. Star Citizen just doesn't have it.
Don't invite
maybe
them.
Cyberpunk after its last patch, or No Man's Sky with his recent update, or Destiny 2, The Witch King. What else came out a bunch of stuff came out this month, February. That was great.
Right.
Other than Star Citizen,
but
that's worth your time.
Here's the difference. And to NoobiFire's point about Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk was mind-blowing. Actually, it's not just Cyberpunk. It's been mind-blowing to see these AAA companies who've been producing these games, and they've been flopping. They've been doing terrible. Whether it was Fallout 76, whether it was Cyberpunk, whether it was Anthem. I mean, these are. Well, let me make sure I'm saying this. When I say flop, I'm saying that what happened with them were things we wouldn't have expected from those companies, right? Okay. So to your point, No Man's Sky, right, which was probably the worst burning game that we've known in quite a while when it came out, has literally redeemed itself, and its player base has grown, and people are enjoying that game. To NoobiFire's point, we don't want it to happen with Star Citizen. My thing is that, though, none of those games you came in at an alpha state. So when you try to introduce this game to people, it's not the same thing as introducing them to these games that are finished. And some people honestly cannot handle a game that is in this state. They can't. As much as we may want to play with them, this is not for them, because they're not going to deal with patches and bugs and all this stuff. They just want to pay their money, and the game is working. And I think that is a difficulty for some people. There are a lot of people I don't tell about this game, because I know if I tell them about it, they'll see the pictures, they get in there and flop out a couple times or something. Thank God 30Ks are gone. But, some other stuff happened to them. They're gone, man. They don't want to play it. They want to play a finished, polished game, and they're just not ready for it.
That's why I explain to people. I exactly explain that to people that come into my Twitch stream, and they ask me about Star Citizen. I'm like, you have to be able to tolerate early access gameplay here. It is the worst of the worst. You're giving them money to pay their employees to make the game, and you can see exactly the stuff I'm struggling with. And your experience may be even worse than what I have.
True.
Like I got people who come to my stream and they say I can't even launch the game. And I'm like, I go talk to CIG because I can't do it. I'm sorry, son.
I get that too. They're like,
I can't do it.
They're like, I logged in and it didn't work, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know what to tell you, right? I don't know what to tell
I'd
you.
like to add to that list:
Sure.
Anthem, Fallout 76, and in some cases, Elite Dangerous.
We won't even go into Elite Dangerous, because they're really having some issues. Did I get everybody? Tomato, did I get you? on that one?
Yeah, man, you got me.
I got you. Okay, got everybody. Okay, cool. All right. What part of the Star Citizen community are you most critical about? What do you see going on in the community? Is it Spectrum? Is it when we went off about food and how we didn't want food because we didn't want to have to be eating every 5 minutes and we blow things out of proportion? What is it in the community that you feel that you would criticize? Let me go to SpaceTomato on this one first.
So you're looking for specifics or just general?
Just something. You can just pick a thing that sticks out in your head.
To be honest, same thing that I mentioned earlier, which is like how extreme reactions. God, get out of here, Whammer.
That's our mascot. Okay, go ahead.
Scared the crap out of me. It's just like the extreme reactions, man. I feel like having a conversation about this game, I'm on edge sometimes. I'm just like, I just want to talk normally about a feature and like not bring up the fact that it's late or not bring up the fact that it's like, you know, not as good as this, or it's already been done in this game, or it's taken too long to do this, or it's hard sometimes to talk about this game in a normal manner.
Okay. HC.
Specifically, oh man, the one thing I have problem with Star Citizen community is just the screenshots. Everybody's like, look how beautiful the Star Citizen. It's incessant. It's almost like a disease. Where everybody's look how this is just to me, and this is probably nothing to nobody, but to me, what really gets my goat is the digital photography for Star Citizen.
It's beautiful stuff.
Reshade. They look at the sunset. We reshade.
Hey, come on, man.
That looks. You go to the next month, it doesn't look anything like
how
that.
to play the game. Who are you to tell people how to enjoy the game?
He doesn't like beautiful
What
pictures.
part of the Star Citizen community are you most critical about?
Who cares?
This is
the people taking pictures.
This is the part of the community I am critical
Wait a
about.
minute.
This is how petty I am.
Noobifier, if that's the most he has to complain about, then that's good. If that's the most,
petty, man.
if that's the most he has to complain about, that's
1% of the problem.
I can think of a lot worse stuff. So if that's the most he has to complain about, fine. Mr. Haskaha is still going to be okay. All right, so it's no problem.
Yeah, we'll sleep tonight, Mr. Haskaha.
Gonna get a private audience with Chris, and you're gonna get any chance to give him some criticism. You're gonna be like, stop them taking the screenshots.
Yeah, take away
button.
third-person camera from this game, Chris Roberts. We don't need those camera controls.
Get that camera out of there.
I didn't back for this.
Noobifier, what about you? Anything you're critical about within the community?
No. I have no critical comment about the community. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and they may choose to behave or interact within the limits of the TOS on Spectrum, in the game, on Twitch or YouTube. Everyone has as much right as I do to enjoy the game however they like and say whatever they like about it, as long as everyone's respectful of the rules.
See, I thought, you know what I thought he was going to say?
But I was just like, wait, I got one.
He started out real good, and I thought he was going to say everyone is entitled, and that's what I thought he was going to stop right there. And I was like, oh my god!
You thought I was going to go dark, but I didn't. Right?
Okay, fair enough. Toy, what about you? Any bumps in the road with the community that you just wish wish they could get this together?
I think overall the community is awesome. I mean, I've been gaming since gaming started, and I've never seen a community so nice to each other, so good. I mean, of course, there's a few bad eggs here and there, and that brings me to, some of these influencers, some of these streamers or whatever, they seem to go in waves. And what happens is they're pro CIG, they love the development, they're this and that for, a period of time. And then I literally turn onto a stream and is like, Star Citizen scam, screw them. And, they got a pretty decent sized audience and stuff. And some of these guys have been backed by CIG before, and that just drives me.
I understand the mentality where it comes from. It's just like a lot of people can't decouple the streaming career from the game itself. And that's difficult because you make your money. Streaming could be your entire income for some people, or it could be a great side hustle for you. And some people feel like they're getting no traction with Star Citizen because the development is so slow. But Chris Roberts is not building Star Citizen for us streamers.
I know.
Yeah, and
even for us back.
There's an interesting point that you're mentioning about that, HC, and Toy, you've been around long enough to remember that there was a period where there were streamers who, and I think they were calculating to your point earlier about Squadron's release by 2014 and 15. They were getting in on the early wave and being able to create shows around it. And when that didn't happen, a lot of those streamers, you saw them either fall away or they became general content streamers because they were basing, everything was being based on Star Citizen. And admittedly, it is difficult if you want to stream exclusively Star Citizen. And to your point, HC, to the point where this is what you're doing full time, it has got to be tremendous work to do that. Because you can't rely on, like, for example, the roadmap, right? If you want to build your show around the roadmap and say, hey, next quarter, I'm going to be talking about this and that. Well, guess what? It doesn't happen. Salvage doesn't drop. Now you've got to figure out, what do I do now? Because I was really hoping that I could build something around this. So there's a frustration that I can understand that exists within that, which is why there have been very few people who've been able to stream from 2013 to today. I can only name a couple people who are still out there streaming Star Citizen. Most people have had to say, I'm doing Star Citizen and I'll go do this when this comes out and I'll come back. But it's got to be difficult and frustrating. But as you said, CIG is not building a game. I mean, the streamers do help promote it, but the game is definitely not being built for them to build their careers around it.
If you want to make someone into a complete a-hole, mess with their money. I'm dead serious. If you grab someone's wallet and you pull a whole bunch of money out of that wallet and you throw that into their face and you run off, there's going to be some serious issues.
It's not your money. It's not my money. It's no one's money at all. You can't think like that.
You got a budget, right?
That's how some of these people think.
No,
they
choose to make this your job. You choose to make this your job. That's a voluntary thing. You choose to put yourself into financial distress if the company shits the bed, right? It's not Chris Roberts' fault that you can't buy milk.
That's why it's difficult. No, but that's why I'm saying that's why it's difficult, because there were streamers who did try to ride on that wave, thinking that was going to happen, and it didn't.
Because we were promised by Chris Roberts this was all going to come out a lot sooner.
I get it. But it was a gamble. If you know anything about gaming development, it was a gamble.
It's a gamble.
And some of you guys are still around, but I'm saying I know a lot of good streamers that were out back in the day that they're gone. They're gone. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Did we get everybody? Toy. Did we get Toy? Yeah, we got everybody, right? Noobifier, Tomato, we got you. Everybody's good? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's jump to this one. What's the best thing CIG has done in this development? Kelosal and Glomab, y'all make sure y'all think about this one too. Toy, let me go to you. What's the best thing the CIG has done during this development?
Oh, I don't know.
No, feel free. Citizen Cons, the TV shows. What's something that you think that's been that is good?
My most favorite thing for this development so far has been those Citizen Cons, because it's for me, it's all about the community. I love this community. I love meeting new people and making new friends and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I can watch all the videos later and stuff, but I go to the Citizen Cons and stuff to hang out and meet everybody that that's playing this game and having a good time together and stuff.
Okay.
So
Tomato.
For me, I'm gonna cheat a little bit and create a bag of all of the things that I think they did a good job with. But honestly, it was diving into the engine and creating some really good systemic tools to make these features that they know in the future they're going to have to make an absolute ton of, like creating the tools for the planets, creating the building blocks tools for the UI, creating some of the like the raster not engine, but the tool that they made for base building. All these things have taken so long, and we've constantly been told, oh, it's the tools. And while they haven't fully proven their worth, I do think that they seem like a really great investment into moving forward with the game development. And honestly, it's probably pretty standard across the industry. I'm just really glad that they did it, and they did it for the certain things they did.
Okay. HC.
Planetary tech, done. Super easy.
Planetary tech.
That's probably like the big maypole feature that Star Citizen's foundation is essentially. Yeah. Everything's going to be built up from there.
Okay.
Or down if it's caves.
Okay, fair enough. Noobifier.
Community. It's the only thing that CIG can't break. They technically didn't make it, but it's the best thing that came of this game.
Interesting. Gomab.
Same thing I tell everybody if I do introduce them to the game or try to explain the game to them. The fact that I can wake up in a bed, get into a ship, fly it out of the port, go to a planet, and no loading screens. To me, that is something that like blew my mind the first time I did it, and then it still does today when I do it now. Just The fact that everything that you see in the system now is there, and you're just going to it.
Okay. Colossal.
Oh, I mean, everybody said some fabulous things, but I'm sorry, I'm going to the monetary part. I think what they've done in terms of collecting money with no publishers or very little publishers deserves to be in a book. I mean, and very little or no other company has done what they've done with that in terms of raising money without publishers.
Yeah, like it or not, right?
I think it's a blueprint. I mean, somebody needs to write a book about how they've done it and how they've managed to be successful at that.
Okay. I would say with Toy and Noobifier, I was going to say community, but you guys stole that from me. So the other one I will say is that the best thing that they've done is trying to do something that nobody else has done before. And that's like wishful. So we'll see where that goes. Okay. All right. 2 more questions to go, gang. Hang in there with us. We're getting there. This is a good one here. What does transparency mean to you as a backer? And when it comes to transparency on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being completely and open and 1 being closed, where would you grade CIG and where would you like to see it be? I'm going to go with Noobifier first on this one.
Okay, so transparency, I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent on this. Transparency is actually the reason that we have feature creep. So as much as everyone says we need it, and it's a thing that we were promised and it's that entitlement, it is also the root of all of the problems that we're having, right? And this goes all the way back to the other thing where they shouldn't listen to us and they should just make the game. And they
should Kung Fu,
right? So this is like an oxymoron. This is like backwards logic. Okay, so sorry for that. So transparency is the reason we have feature creep, and transparency early on was also the reason that we have a game, because all of the hype that's associated with Ben Lesnick saying this, or all of the other things that Chris was dreaming about early on. So the transparency is what we have. We owe everything we have to transparency. But it's also a solid level of expectation. It's where a lot of the entitlement comes from. And it's unsustainable with the proposed deadlines. So as things blew up, we all know this. This is history, right? So the problem with the transparency is they're pulling transparency away now. And I almost, hindsight, they should have done that early on. But then we wouldn't have a game, if that makes any sense, because we wouldn't have had the funding without the hype, without the transparency and all the other stuff. So now that we're being weaned off of it, and that I do think it's the right time to do that. Well, I think we're still 10 years away from like a PTU launch or a PU launch, and we're probably 2 years away from Squadron. It's kind of unsettling to have no transparency or less of something that we're used to at the same time as getting the realization that we're maybe that far away from what we want.
Okay.
Sorry if that didn't answer the question.
No, you did. You did. HC.
I'll have to think about transparency mean to you as a backer. I think CIG does better job with transparency than any other developers, even to today. The roadmap is amazing. It's better than what we get for like Battlefield 2042 or Anthem.
Did you ever see the roadmap for Elite Dangerous, dude?
Yeah, it's almost nothing.
It was like 2 paragraphs. That was it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Or you get a whole page of nothing.
Yeah. Go ahead, HC.
A whole page of nothing.
Yeah,
or you look other like indie titles that may do a little more ambitious roadmap who are a lot more vague about their goals. Games I follow like Industries of Titan or Phantom Brigade, they have roadmaps, but their roadmaps are more feature based. Like we're working on this next. We plan to have this in this patch, but usually the list is very small of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I think CIG does a really good job of trying to be transparent with the community, even though the community tends to can use that transparency against them. But sometimes you can't listen to the community, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Which leads to what Noobifier saying.
But transparency to me, like if you're gonna be transparent with your community, sometimes you have to say stuff to them that they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize that you don't win an argument with a customer. And that saying really is more about like you can win an argument with a customer, but you lose a customer, essentially. So it's up to CIG to try to handle the stuff diplomatically in indifference and diplomatically and unemotionally. Try to you know, the whole blaming the community, we're removing the parts of the roadmap because you, the community, are taking it too far. Like, you know, that's probably what they shouldn't have said. But even then, that's a form of transparency. You know, you're allowing your frustration with the community to come through. It's just like, we just don't know what to do with you guys. You're just so
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
All right. Toy?
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem, especially for those of us that have been around as long as we have, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of transparency lately, but it's still more than any other game has ever had. I mean, we watch these videos. The only other one I've seen that even comes close is Ashes of Creation. They do a video every month or something like that. But it's still, you know, they come out, show you what they're working on, lock the doors, and disappear for another month or two or however long it is. But you know, CIG's here still, you know, every week, or you know, in Spectrum or somewhere talking Reddit there.
Wow. Okay. Tomato.
I think sorry.
You unmuted
Yeah,
your.
I
There you
had
go.
to reload my camera.
Just give that a little extra emphasis to his statement.
I want to double up on the messaging.
Gotta have that reverb. People are hearing it.
I would give CIG like around a 6, maybe a 5 or a 6 in terms of transparency, and it's hard to say what is full transparency for me, because I don't know. When I look at the absolute details of a project, like the very, very detailed details, like the notes and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is too much. I don't need that. But I do think that full transparency would be something like that. You know, we get to know what a developer is doing on a given week, not to the point that we can say, hey, they're working on this, but like they could literally put down, oh yeah, here's a weekly roundup. Here's what this developer's doing. Now that's crazy. I would never expect that. So I don't expect 10 out of 10 transparency from a company, but I do think that CIG sometimes has a little bit of inconsistency with the way that they do their transparency. That, like one of the examples I used earlier, we will get notified of something moving around on the roadmap roundup for something, but then there might be something else on the progress tracker that we simply never hear about. And I think maybe part of the problem also comes from the fact that people don't know where to go to hear about that if they haven't heard anything. Like, it could be on the monthly report, it could be, you know, on the progress tracker in detail, it could be on some kind of a QA where they've released that messaging for it, but it's hard to know. I just think, regardless, that sometimes there's information that doesn't come out when I expect it to, and sometimes there's information that comes out that I'm like, were you guys really wanting to put that out just now? So I think they do try, and I think they do a really good job of it. Definitely better than any other company I could think of, by far. But that's not to say they're perfect with it.
Okay. Kelosal.
I think one of the biggest ideas of transparency is that it leads to accountability. And that's the whole purpose of transparency. Now, who gets to define that? I mean, in most cases, your government does, and that's how you have that fight between governments and private corporations, because private corporations say you're asking for too much, government says you're not giving enough. But with that being the case, when it comes to transparency, as far as Star Citizen, at first, I thought they were giving way too much. I enjoyed it. I thought it was, you know, I was looking to see what was happening with that, but we see the end result of that, right? So I thought that they were at a 7. And now with them scaling back, I think they're probably around a 5 or a 4, which is where I'd like them to be. I think the less is better. You know, just like you have on your kitchen table, you don't want a cluttered kitchen table. You want the less items, you know, less is more. So for me, I don't need to know all these other things, but I understand what people are asking for. They're asking for accountability and things like that and so forth. But once again, I just don't think that they need to cough up that much information, especially while they're in a developmental stage. They're developing the game. So just give me a tweak here, a tweak there. Let me know what you finished and why you put this in there, and then set up a community forum to get more advice. Other than that, I don't need to know what's going on.
Okay.
That's another good point. It's like the vibe around the game has changed a lot over the years, into the fact that 5 years ago, it was kind of like, are you really doing things? What's actually going on? Whereas now, I have a pretty decent amount of confidence in, you know, the actual flow of development now, to the point where I don't need to be told everything.
Okay. Gomab.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Kelosal said, right? You know, in the past, again, they were mistakenly, in my opinion, way too transparent for the user base, which was shown, right? So yeah, I think they were like 7 or 8 even for all the information that they were putting out, all the different shows, the trackers, release views, showing what they were trying to accomplish, you know, target. People just weren't prepared to accept that information for what it was. So scaling back to now, it's about, I think they're around at 5. I still think them focusing on the actual progress tracker as opposed to the release view is still very transparent. You can drill down and see what individual teams are working on. What? Like, who else is showing you that level of granularity about how they're developing their project? Nobody. Ever in any software ever has ever given you this much information on a regular basis. You can go look at it today. So no, it's you know, they are still being very transparent, but on their scale that they've set, you know, they may have started at a 7 or 8. Only way you can get up to a higher level if you got cameras looking at everybody's screen throughout all the studios, where you just kind of click through, like, hey, dude, you missed a semicolon right there. But
nobody wants that. They do not want that.
Right? You know, but that's the only way you could have really gotten more transparent than what they started off as. But again, it turned out to be a big negative for them. And scaling back, people, the negative minority were very vocal about it and very loud about it. But as we see, the money's still rolling in, as theNoobifier has pointed out many times tonight, right, folks? You know, you get those squeaky wheels that will yeep and re all throughout Spectrum and Reddit, but the money's still coming in. So apparently it was the right call. So
yeah, I want to go back to something, Noobifier, you said earlier, and it was about transparency in the beginning and how it was used. And weaponized. Weaponized, but it was the lure. That was a part of the pitch, right? It was.
I'm happy that they did it.
Right. It was part of what sold me, that I'd get to see a little bit behind the curtain where the wizard was and be told what was going on, because other games weren't doing that. But what I do want to say is that it seems like there needed to be an evolution of a lot of things that have taken place. One of the observations that we made before, I think even CIG did, was, in the community talked about it, how citizen cons used to be about, this is what we would like to do. This is what we want you to see eventually. And now Citizen Con has moved toward more of a, this is where we are now. This is what we're doing. Because we had to move past that visionary state and start making it now more about what's there. Now, there were people at last year's Citizen Con who didn't like that. They still wanted that eye candy stuff that was down the road. And they felt like, you guys didn't tell us enough about the future. You just told us about where you are right now. But I think that it needed to evolve into that, just like the roadmap. I think the roadmap, and it's interesting, I don't know, people always talk about the statement that CIG made about how you all made us go crazy, so we had to do this. But there was something else that CIG said in that email. They said, we made a mistake by doing this. They did acknowledge the fact that there was evidently some questionableness about them putting that out there, and that it was a mistake. And so my point is that great transparency that was there earlier was great. A lot of people, like some people can handle seeing that full year thing. A lot of folks couldn't. I agree. I think that the map that says this is what's committed, this is what we've signed off on, is perfect. If it's within that 1 quarter, I'm happy with that. I would love to see 6 months, 9 months, a year, but I don't have to see it. But I do feel there's enough accountability that says, here's what you guys can expect to see when 3.17 comes out. And I think that's what a lot of people have been looking for and can focus on. I think that it has toned it down. You know, we barked about it, but, you know, as it was said earlier, the money's still coming in. People are still playing. They're not losing players. Ta-da.
I have an analogy for you.
Yeah.
I'm a very visual speaker. Sorry. You have a rocket. It's 3-stage. It takes off. It's got a shit ton of fuel. It's got a big rocket on it, and it goes up. And 2016... the rocket separates. Yeah. So what we needed for the booster was transparency and hype to get the shit going, right? Now we're past 2016. Everyone hit the target, and they're like, we're like, Chris came out and said all this shit that we're not going to get, right? 3.2, 3.3, that PowerPoint.
That PowerPoint,
refers to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, God.
That was a mistake, but it was hype, and we can thank that we got into orbit only because of the BS that we went through. Okay, so you can look at it negatively and a lie and like we were mistreated and everything. None of us were mistreated. We all have our own Visa card. We know what we're getting into, right? I tell the people all the time, don't come to me pissed off that you bought an 890 jump, right? Don't be pissed off with me that the textures don't work on it because you're the moron who has a credit card, right? And I'm not saying that people are stupid for buying ships. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you have
just the 890 jump.
Just the 890 jump.
Hey.
We are all willing participants.
Sorry,
right? We are all willing participants to this. We all know what we got into.
Yeah.
You can't be pissed off. Star Citizen refunds, those people, like a whole community of people that are super pissed off. You got bamboozled. Who cares? You did it to yourself, right? Sell your ships. Go play Elder Scrolls. Right? Sorry. Anyways, what I guess I'm trying to say is the rocket analogy.
Yeah.
The beginning, we needed the hype. We needed transparency. Now we're getting into that thing where the hype is doing more damage than good. It's destabilizing. So maybe now it's time to evolve.
Yeah, move it out.
Right?
Yeah.
Change out how business works. It's not them being assholes. It's them doing what we need. I do think that, like, I'm not a white knight by any stretch, but the company is smarter than all of us because they're the ones with $500 million
of our money.
Of our money.
They also can see way more than us. Like,
Of course they can.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying, like, I can be salty. You'll never. Sorry, go ahead. That was totally rude of me.
Go ahead, dude.
All I was going to say is that they are the experts. They've proven that they are.
Yeah. All right. We have gotten through 11 out of 12 questions. We have one good fun question for our panelists. And that question is, have you ever been criticized or critiqued by your viewers? And do you have any good stories? Has anyone ever critiqued you for what you share from your platforms? And I'll start with Tomato.
I mean, yeah.
It could be a good critique. It could be a good critique. It doesn't have to be bad.
No, go to bad. That's always fun.
Go to bad. Okay.
I've had some particularly. It's gotten definitely in the last, I'd say, 5 months or so. I get a lot of the standard. Oh, you're too negative, or you're too positive, or I'm unsubscribing to you. The other day, I got this pretty wild comment telling me that I was just too apathetic. I dismissed CIG too much. They were unsubscribing to me because I was too negative. And it was like a video of me reacting to Inside Star Citizen. I think I had mentioned that, like, oh, I wish they had included hair, something in it with hair with the new character rework. And they were not having it. Gosh, what is another one? I had something else here. Did I write that down? Because they get pretty weird. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of interesting one. I've been told that I probably work for CIG.
Oh, okay.
Which it'd be nice if they paid me.
You don't get paid?
Like, please, can I have a salary? It was back when I actually did a pretty big transition with my YouTube channel at the beginning of the year, and I started doing more exclusive content for supporters just because of like the messaging I was getting from them. It seemed like they wanted it, and I had this guy who was going off on me, telling me like, "Hey, no successful YouTuber cares about the money. They only do it because they love it. Then the money comes." And I'm sitting here like, dude, what? Like, how can somebody do it as their, like, how can you do it your full time and not care about the money? Because you have to live some way. So I get a lot of that. I think that's generally the idea that, people don't consider YouTube to be a realistic job yet. Those are the worst critiques I get.
Okay. Toy.
Oh, so I have a lot of regulars on my stream, and every time I say something that makes them mad, I have this donation button where they can force me to eat crickets. I have they sent this to me. I have a PO box, so they send me spicy crickets. I've done the hot chip challenge, the death nut challenge, hot chocolate, you name it. Every time they get mad at me, they force me to do crap I hate. I got jars of bad tasting, those Bean Boozle beans that are just terrible flavors, and they just sit and just make me eat that crap all night long.
I'm making crickets. That's too much.
Multiple times.
Oh, that's too much. Oh, God. HC.
Man, I've just been called a rage monster, and just like when I get mad, I go through the roof like instantly. But I try to come down as quickly as possible. But I'll have like massive spikes in volume in my stream when something happens on my stream that I don't like. It just I go through the roof, and then I'm right back in my seat. And that some people really don't like that. Like I'm pretty chill most of the time. Like, oh yeah, let's do some mining. Let's go do some NPC stuff. And like, oh, this is bullshit. All right, let's get back to mining, everybody. Yeah, some people, it's just you get audio visual whiplash from that, I guess.
That's pretty good. Noobifier, what about you?
I am critiqued daily and vigorously. People love to hate me. It's that thing.
DIG has critiqued you like openly.
Oh my god! But that's good.
He gets a shout out.
That the same thing was like, you're the worst pirate I've ever heard of, and you turn around and you say, but you have heard of me. But you have heard of me. Right?
Hey, Maiden Ariana, thanks for the raid.
Yes, Maiden Ariana, thank you so much for that. Oh my god, my screen just jumped to the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Thank you, Maiden Ariana. Thank you so much for the 24 viewers. Thank you. Go ahead, Noobifier.
I was just gonna say, so I love the whole point of being a community content creator is to create content for the community. So if you throw a video out there like a fishing line and you never check the line, you're really wasting half the point. So the point is to engage with the community. So I always read everything, and I'm still small enough. Like we're all nobodies, but I still consider myself absolutely nobody, and I definitely have enough time to read every single comment. Some of them come back and people just outside of like completely stupid. I'll answer, not that the people are stupid, but the question or his perspective is just missing. So I'll always try once to answer nicely, and when it comes back, I'll just assume that the person's having a bad day, and I'll say, I'm really disappointed that you're having a bad day. What can I do? Do you need me to be a punching bag? Do you want me just to keep answering so you can just be a like salty piece of shit towards me? Because if that's what you need, I'm your Batman. I'm your guy, right? Anyways, so I'll take those, I'll copy paste them and throw them public Discord in my Discord because the supporters there love that shit. It's like fuel, right? It's so good. Public shaming is the best remedy. Anyways, I'm going to end on this though. My favorite are when people do that and they just get so salty, but they haven't even bothered to subscribe to the content. So whatever, right? Like you guys are shadow ban. You guys have heard of that, right? Like YouTube has a thing, shadow ban. The person just goes nuts in the chat and you just shadow ban them. They can read their comment and they think that everyone can read it, but I'm the only person that can read it.
It's so
After 6 months, I will go query every single thing they did. I'll put it into a Google Doc and I'll email it to them. And I'll say, none of this shit, like, all of your beautiful wordsmithing, fuck you.
Never made
one
it.
heard it.
Nobody
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
I love that.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
Wow.
Okay.
Is there like a bot or like a macro for that I can borrow from you?
No, you just go into your analytics and you go
And
show me
pull it
comments.
down.
You type the person's name and
And it comes up.
Oh yeah, copy pasta. Dump it right into a Google Doc.
I've been criticized by being too mean to Fast Card at times, but that's it.
Don't worry, Fast Cart hits us back with those wonderful jokes.
Fast
Oh,
Card can take it.
God.
He's mostly metal.
Yeah, there you go.
They rebuilt him wrong.
They rebuilt him.
Yeah, we do have
To
one
be tougher.
question. We have one question. This was from quite a while back, but I think it was in relation to us talking about Squadron 42. This came from Katio. Says, okay, can't the different acts of Squadron 42 be iterative and be improved upon as the MMO develops? Anybody want to respond to that?
I'll respond to that. So you said it earlier that Squadron 42 and the persistent universe are interchangeable. And they're using the engine of the persistent universe to make Squadron 42. So, and I've had this thing, for a long time too. Why can't they just spit out a single player game? But it's all tied to that same engine that they're still, even to this day, 10 years down the line, developing. So it's just some of these features, I mean, do we need like salvaging in Squadron 42, or do we need this in Squadron 42? I don't know. I guess we'll find out when it comes out. But you know, I think some of those features are just like placeholders because they're still working on the core engine.
Yeah, there were some things, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, panel. CIG did talk about, and sometimes I do still wonder if this is the rule. They talked about that we would receive things in the PTU or the PU that were in Squadron 42, like certain ships. But sometimes there's some ships they've given us, I have to wonder whether they're going to be in Squadron 42. Is that still the rule, guys? That any ship that we have will be in Squadron 42?
I assume anything that CIG has in the persistent universe could potentially show up in Squadron 42 as an asset.
Okay.
Because why would you not? If you already have a MISC Freelancer built, or a MISC Freelancer Max, or a MISC, or any of the Freelancer variants, you could use that as a pirate ship or something, or an escort mission. We have to escort this civilian convoy, and there's a whole bunch of civilian ships in there.
Okay.
So why not?
Okay. Can I get a stab at this?
Sure.
So not to answer, that sounds really condescending. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. To address Toy's comment about how, but everything is intertwined. So even though salvage may not be in Squadron 42, all of the procedural damage tech is. And we know that that's where Chris wants to go. So all of it is so codependent that to finish one, you almost have to finish the other, which is why I think that it's delayed. And that's totally reasonable. Again, finish it right. When Squadron 42 comes out and it's 200% better than everyone were expecting, then that's good for the company. That's good for the brand. But the PU has to be at the same polish level, or all these people are going to come in and say, wow, this is sensational. And they're going to look at this and say, wow, this is a piece of shit. So it's kind of interesting that way. I had another thing, but it's gone, right? It's like 10 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, I know we're going to wrap this up. We do have one other question. It's from one of our panelists who is asking the other three panelists. This is from SpaceTomato. What did you think of hover mode?
Like the new revamp?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
No, the one that got removed. The one that got removed.
It was too difficult for new players with mouse and keyboard to deal with, and it needed to be revamped. It was when you came in for a landing at Port All-Star before they adjusted it in the PTU, it was just fire and wreckage as far as the eye can see. And then they changed it so it only activates inside gravity and atmosphere, and that was good. And then you go visit Levski, and as soon as you hit Levski's hangars, which had gravity and atmosphere, because Levski Delamar didn't have atmosphere, so hover mode wouldn't kick in until you got into the hangars. Then it was just more fire and wreckage. It was too hard to deal with that low speed cutoff that cutoff between, it was like
5 or 10 meters or something like that. Yeah,
it was a real low speed, but it was it was kind of like when you hit that speed and hover mode kicked in, you weren't ready for it. And mouse and keyboard was very drifty, so it was very, if you rotated the ship just slightly if you pitched up a little bit, if you pitched up and you turned a certain direction, it would actually roll the ship a little bit, and because it flew like a helicopter, not like a spaceship, you would immediately start sliding in the hand.
Start veering.
If you hit the wall, that was it, you're done.
Thank you, Uber Nerd. What's up, buddy? Thank you so much for the rate of 64 viewers, even though we're wrapping up the show. But thank you guys for coming in and stopping by. We do have a question on the floor, though. TheNoobifier, what were your thoughts about the hover mode? Were you a fan? You adapted?
I love the idea. The idea of making DCS in Star Citizen. The problem is that not everyone wants that. And as soon as you make it so that when you come in contact with a side of a hangar and you lose your tune and your ship, and then you get a crime stat, just because something outside of your control happens to interfere with your skill, then it's a problem. So double Dutch, right?
Yeah.
Both good and bad.
Gotcha. Big Black Gaming, thank you so much for the 2,000 bits. Holy moly. Thank you. Toy, what were your feelings about hover mode back in the day?
I hated it. I hated it for the second it went in, the whole time it was in. I am so glad it's gone. It's like the lazy man's flying mode. I just could not stand it.
Okay, Kelosal, how were you at hover mode? Were you good?
when we first saw them demonstrate it, we were like, okay, this is okay,
Yeah.
this is interesting. And then when it was implemented, then I'm gonna be like Stewie's mate. No, no, no.
Okay. Go Mob. Go Mob.
You guys have heard me say this plenty of times. I believe gameplay for any game should be challenging and not punishing. That was punishing gameplay.
Okay.
And it just wasn't fun. So I'm glad they took it out.
Okay. All right, I'm going to make this real quick. We've got 2 more questions. These are the last 2 questions we're going to take, gang, because we've had our guys here for a couple hours. This is from Drazen. I hope I'm saying that right. If you had to pick 3 deliverables within the next year, which 3 would you say, in your opinion, would be critical to keeping the player count and overall interest up? I'm going to narrow that down to one thing because I want everybody to be able to respond to that. So if there's one thing that you think would keep people, fired up about the game, HC, what would it be? One thing that they deliver.
They increase player count with stability without sacrificing stability.
You don't have to come to me because that's my answer.
Okay, Noobifier.
They're connected, meshing and pyro. You do those, the money will flow again.
Okay, Tomato.
I think getting more missions into the game that make use of the features that we have that nobody really uses would do a lot to help people appreciate what is in the game already and differentiate gameplay a little bit more.
Okay. Toy. Ouch!
Pets. I want our pets.
They're pets.
Fluffies.
I want pets.
I mean, we had turtles for the longest time.
Yes.
They're fun to collect.
Give me a space cow, please. I want her name to be Becky.
Disco Lando body pillow that he talked about on the last Star Citizen Live
with like some Berber carpet where the chest ear is to kind of give you that simulation.
Oh god.
RGB lighting.
Buster the Destroyer loves talking about this guy. Okay,
I know.
She's got a serious.
We definitely know. We definitely know. Go Mob. What would be the one thing you want to see them put in the game that would just perk everybody's interest in the game?
Dick Turner and I rework.
Don't say that because you're trying to make me happy. I want it. Is that what you want?
Okay. Replication layer.
From this guy, just jumping from one side of the fence to the next.
Replication layer.
Yeah.
Replication layer and subsumption. I think if we get some of that in, things will be real cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with player counts and meshing. Those are gonna be the ones I'm gonna go with as well. All right, and our last question for tonight. Can CIG increase their staffing by 30 to 40% the way they can CIG increase their staffing by 30-40% that they want to do in the Euro offices with their current funding model? What can they do? So I guess they're asking, based upon the money that they're bringing in now, the way money's coming in, are they able to, we've heard them talk about increasing their staffing up to, I think, 1,500 or something like that. Is that doable? Does that sound doable to you guys, or does it sound like it's stretching it a bit?
I honestly don't know what they can afford.
Yeah, it's a lot to consider.
Yeah, it's only been the last year or recent years where they've been in the green or the red, whatever, out of the red they've made profited. So I'm assuming that they're being counters to Noobifier's point earlier, a lot more smarter folks than we are, and I'm sure that for them to make these moves that they're doing, particularly with the new offices over in Europe, I'm sure that they're paying attention to that, and their investors are paying attention to it too. So I don't have any fears about
the fact that they're doing it means that they can do it.
I mean, it's just as simple as that. They got people who they're paid to go ahead and give them that type of determination and predictability. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they've got good feelings about the next couple of years, I guess.
Well, they made the deal for that building during the middle of COVID too, and they probably got a hell of a deal on that.
Yeah, probably. Kamikaze the Mutt.
And we've been getting a whole bunch of pictures of pyro. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And bicycle handles.
Well, we did get the bicycle soon after the picture.
Yeah.
Elianka,
thank you also for that follow. Thank you all so much for those. Uber Nerd, thank you again for sending over the nerds to hang out with us tonight. But we are going to wrap it up. It has been a fun-filled, informative evening with some very, very cool people. What we do want to do is give you guys a real quick, we're going to let them say something before they leave, but we just want to kind of remind you guys that our Thursday show, Soul Talk, which is our community talk show, has moved to YouTube. It is exclusively on YouTube. Many of you were there last week, and we had a great time on YouTube. So just know that we're not on Twitch anymore on Thursday nights. Only this show is on Twitch. and we look forward to seeing you guys there. And then next Sunday, we're going to continue with our careers series. We're going to be talking about data and intelligence. For those of you all who have heralds and MSRs and want to get into the espionage and all this stuff, that's going to be our topic for next week. I want to thank the people that we have here tonight, but I want them to all get a chance to sign off and tell you where you can find them. So HCVertigo, where can people find you?
Mostly on Twitch, twitch.tv/HCVertigo. I am trying to fire up some more YouTube content, HCVertigo on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter, HCVertigo on Twitter, where you get updates, and sometimes I do some content on there. Not if I have something funny to post or interesting to post, I'll put it up on Twitter. Mostly it's just like, hey, I'm live on Twitch, or I got a new YouTube video up.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. Noobifier, where can people find you?
I just want to say thanks so much for setting this up first. This was so much fun. Like, I don't get any time to get out of the house, right? I'm not on Twitch. The only time I'm in is when I'm lurking. So thanks for this. It's obviously way cool. Obviously, YouTube, right? Noobifier. And I've also got the second channel, Competition. It's Italian. It's for racing.
Yes.
I do that. And that's where I've been live streaming. And I'm learning to live stream there to eventually stream Star Citizen for no reason other than, like, the world does not need another Star Citizen streamer, people, right? There's thousands.
We always need more.
You know I'm right. There are thousands. It's saturated.
I know.
Everyone's great.
Be one.
Everyone's great. The moral of the story is I just see it as another outlet to go play the game and hang out. So
I want some no BS streams.
You're not going to get them. It's 100% BS.
All BS all the time.
Full BS. It's going to be the polar opposite. I'm going to lose so many subscribers. Anyways, again, thanks so much for being here. This is great.
Thanks for coming, Noobifier. Tomato.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, SpaceTomato. I have a second channel, SpaceTomato 2. That is as in TOO, not the number. I stream on Twitch, kind of stream on YouTube too, going back and forth between them and figuring that out. But honestly, the best way to find all of my content, because I do blog posts about the game pretty often, about once a week, which is original stuff that's on the website. So SpaceTomatoGaming.com is the best way to find all of the stuff that I put out.
Okay, and thank you for coming, Tomato, again. And Toy, last but not least, tell them where they can find you.
You can catch me on Twitch /ToyGrubin. Don't have a set schedule right now because of IRL stuff. But, just do that follow. And when I go live, hopefully it notifies you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm having a lot of trouble with that lately.
Yeah. And listen, I want to say a sincere thanks from all of the members of the Soul Citizens team. We just have a couple here, Gomab and Kelosal. But as again, you guys have, we all follow you guys. We watch you guys. You guys contribute so much cool stuff to the community. And we want to say thank you for all you guys have done, because we stole our ideas from you. So we really appreciate all that you guys have done. No, seriously, we do really appreciate you guys and what you've done for this community. And I'm sure plenty of our folks in our chat feel the same way.
Thanks for having us on, Griff.
Yeah. Oh, no, we do. We'll have to have some more fun. Speaking of fun, one announcement I do want to make is that we've been asked to do another virtual bar citizen, and I just spoke with the folks over at Yacht Club today, and they're cool with it. We're going to be doing one again first Saturday in April. So for those of you who've participated in the virtual bar citizens, we've had such a great response from it. We've had people from CIG there to hang out with us. Those virtual things have gone from 5 hours. So I hate to admit it, one time we went 11 hours. It was ridiculous. But we had a blast. We had a blast on Zoom. So for folks who maybe can't get out, or there's not one local near you, we've had folks from over in Europe. We've had folks from, who's that? Papa Doc. Thank you for that resub. Thank you. We've had folks from over in Europe, folks in the US, folks in Germany who come and sit in, and we just have a good time. So we're going to get more information out starting this week for you all for that, but you'll be able to register on Zoom. We had about 90 or 100 people one time on. It was really great. So again, that'll be April the 2nd, Saturday, April the 2nd. I can tell you that much right now. So look for it. If you see it on Twitter, if you want to register for it. Make sure you get a spot so you can get in. And that's the end of that announcement. Who is that? Janan, thank you for the sub as well. We appreciate it. And thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. Hope you guys learned a lot about these guys, their thoughts about Star Citizen. And yeah, I think that's about it. We are going to set up for a raid. And the raid is going to be for Dark Hour 717. So those of you who are into Dark Hour, you guys can go over, see Dark Hour, give some shout, give love. If you like what you see, follow. And again, guys, thank you all so much for being here with us tonight. We're going to tell you guys, as always, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and peace, love, and soul. We'll see you guys real soon, and take care.
Welcome back, Brady.